meeting for Tuesday the 5th of November 2024. Before I start, I'm going to clear up a few pieces of housekeeping that I maybe. So first of all, I'd like to welcome our new director, Sinead McAvoy, to the management team, I suppose, is the polite way of putting it. So welcome, Sinead. Then I'd like to pass on some condolences. So Colette McNulty's mother-in-law passed away. I know it was touched upon at the last the special council meeting, but I would like to pass on the condolences on my behalf. Thank you. And finally, I want permission from the council to write to the family of the late Siobhan Allister. I know many of the Fermanagh-based councillors will definitely have known her. Siobhan was a massive worker for MS and the Ashling Centre, and she raised many thousands of pounds for charity. So I'd like your permission to write a letter. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Robert. So, thank you. I have two councillors have contacted me for AOB, and I haven't seen any other. So that's Josephine Deehan and Barry McElduff. I have been rushing all evening, so I'm not aware of any others, but if I have left somebody out, if they indicate now, and I'll have a quick click at some stage. I'm not seeing anybody. Thank you. Okay, so first of all, we go to apologies. Councillor Debbie Coyle.
Thanks, Chair, and congratulations to Sinead as well in her new job. And just want to also share your thoughts around Colette's mum and Siobhan as well. Chair, only one apology tonight, Roisin Gallagher.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. Next we go to Councillor Victor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. No apologies from the Ulster Unionist Party that I'm aware of. Councillor Ovens will be joining us online. Also want to wish Sinead welcome to I'll be polite, the Madhouse. So you're very welcome, Sinead. And obviously, just on the back of you've mentioned Siobhan. Siobhan was somebody I worked very closely with. You said raised thousands. I would say tens of thousands. They estimated she raised about 116,000 in her time with the Fermanagh MS Society. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Victor. Next we go to Councillor Paul Robinson.
Oh, apologies, Councillor Hilliard's joining us later.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And all three SDLP are here. Eddie I'm going to Councillor Eddie Roof.
Yes. Thanks, Chair. Just an apology for Councillor Donnelly, and just to echo the sentiments for Siobhan. Should be sadly missed, and was an excellent fundraiser and a wonderful local advocate.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Josephine Deehan's online. Sorry. So we've a number of councillors online tonight. Councillor Ovens has his hands full with a baby, and I'm sure there's others. So we've Councillor Catherine Kelly, Councillors Anne-Marie Fitzgerald, and Councillor Ovens, Councillor Beacon online. Okay. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to confirm and sign the meetings of the special council meeting held on. Done all the signings, so go to. Yeah. Oh, I need to confirm. Okay. Okay, so for accuracy, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. So proposer, Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly and Councillor Bernard McGrath. Okay. So next we go to sign the minutes of the council meeting held on the 1st of October. So page, for accuracy first, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17. Councillor Earl Thompson proposing, Councillor Victor Warrington second. Okay. Now we get to apology or to declarations of interest was item 4. I'm not seeing any in the chamber, and Councillor Ovens online.
Thank you, Chair. It's the two letters at 4.2 and 17.4. So 4.2 and 17.4, and then also the motion at 19.1. Thank you.
Thank you. Not seeing any others. Thank you. So next we go to matters arising out of the special council meeting, and I suppose by way of an update, the Mid-South-West growth deal is now no longer paused. In the interim period, myself and the Chief Executive went over to London with a delegation, which I felt was very beneficial. We got to meet and greet and put our case forward in the strongest sense, and whether it had any influence or not, but we definitely have got it unpaused. Tomorrow, myself and the Chief Executive will be going to Cookstown, where we will sign the terms. So that's good news on that. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5.
Chair, just to note on page 5, members will see the Health Minister has responded and made reference to Carrickmore Health Centre. That I think we maybe consider at the council meeting, the next set of minutes, if that's okay, as there's a direct link at that point.
Okay. Councillor McAdoo.
Just to seek clarity from the Chief Executive, we're going to deal with it at another meeting as distinct from this? No.
Sorry,
Minutes.
the next set of minutes, so momentarily we'll deal with it.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now we go to item 6, matters arising from the council meeting. So page 1, page 2, and I'm going to hand you over to Alison, the bottom of page 2.
No, thank you, Chair. It was just in relation to your suggestion about a review of the current civic hospitality proposals. So what we'd be intending to do, Chair, is to convene a meeting of the recent past chairs and vice chairs in the first instance, maybe to seek their feedback on the current arrangements and how they have worked, and we would then bring a wider report into the committee. So the intention would be that meeting would be held before the end of November, which should allow for reporting in December.
Okay. We need that. Okay. So page 3.
So, Chair, just item 4.2, just as referenced a moment ago, we have received a response from the Health Minister, and that is in relation to the Council's letter at the last meeting, but also previous correspondence. So the Minister works through a variety of the issues raised, Chair, and has also indicated that he has not ruled out meeting with the Council, but at this point his priority is with health stakeholders in the first instance.
Okay, Councillor Hayes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'd like to note there was correspondence from the Ministry of Health, and there are a couple of points I'd like to respond to in that response. He does point out that we were mistaken, that the Minister wasn't in place when the cuts were implemented. That may have been the case, but when the 50% was slashed from the funding of the GP elective services. But he did stand over those cuts while he was the Minister. He actually, when questioned by this council, said that it couldn't be helped, citing the then budget constraints. But a few months later, with the same budget constraints in place, he managed to use his authority as the Health Minister to completely reinstate the vasectomy services, which was great. That was great, that men could have access to these services again, making their own decisions about their reproductive health and their future in terms of family and children. But I do find this decision quite interesting and quite telling. I've been raising the issue of access of women's health services, like the clinic in Lisnaskea, which covers the whole district with one GP, bear in mind. I've been raising this for over a year, and I have been looking through all the responses from the health ministers, and I must say that I can see a quite disturbing trend. Not only is it a struggle sometimes to get a response, but it seems when women's lack of access to services, especially rural women's lack of access to services, is questioned, it seems to be dismissed. It's explained away by budget constraints, it can't be helped sort of answers. There's also a lot of blaming of other people, executive parties, finance departments, even us as elected councillors are described in these letters as being ironic for questioning these decisions, and for our questions are being surprising. It's almost as if asking these questions are an annoyance when we're actually just doing our job. We're elected reps for our constituents, and the issues they're having, experiencing, is valid to ask through this council. And I must say, this concerns me greatly. Women's health issues and the lack of access to services should not be spoken about in this manner. And I ask the Minister again, instead of telling us what you can't do and blaming others for that, please stop doing that. It really comes across as childish. Please tell us what you can do. Come up with a plan within your existing budget, just like all the other departments have had to cope with. They've come up with plans. What can you do? How do you plan to tackle the lack of access to rural women's health services here in this district? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, we go to Councillor Adam Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. And being honest, when I read this letter, I found parts of it quite shocking in their tone. Some of the tone that I've seen from this, I wouldn't have seen from any other minister in the way it is worded. Some sections in the letter come across as completely condescending, arrogant and contemptful toward the council, in my opinion. And I'll take into a few points here. There's obviously the talk about finance. Rather than take responsibility, he's decided to blame his government partners. If you're in government, you accept what your government's decision is and what your partners in government's decision is. This blame game of pointing fingers at each other in the same executive just doesn't work and is nonsensical. But I will say, from the point of view of the emergency general services, the response here is beyond disappointing. It's just boilerplate. Shows the minister has absolutely no intention of restoring the services here, and that really he has no care for the people who might be in a life-threatening situation in Fermanagh. That's evident from that response. It's a boilerplate response that kind of absolves himself of any responsibility. And the final point I want to touch on with this letter is around meeting with the council. You know, a paragraph or two earlier, he's saying, oh, you are stakeholders, you will be listened to in consultation. And then a paragraph later in this section, he's saying, oh, I want to meet stakeholders as first instance. So one minute we are stakeholders when it suits him to absolve responsibility, and the next minute we're not stakeholders when he couldn't be bothered to meet us. And that's what it is, Chair. You know, he kind of is spinning there because of the inconsistency in what he's saying, and it's really not good enough. The one thing I will say, it's nice that he finally acknowledged that we've asked for a meeting. How long have we been even looking for that acknowledgement? It's beyond per at this stage where we are, but hopefully this time he'll come back to us and give us a meeting and have a discussion. But for some reason, given the tone and sections of this letter, I doubt that'll happen anytime soon. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to go to Councillor Josephine Deehan, who's online.
Thank you, Chair. I too would like to welcome Sinead to the team and wish her every success in her new role going forward. Just in relation to this correspondence from the Minister, I suppose it is disappointing. You know, I agree that at some level, Minister Nesbitt does seem to be making some excuses. However, there are some positives to be taken from this letter, Chair. The Minister does say that he remains committed to greater investment in primary care elective services, and he acknowledges in his correspondence that those services can make a significant impact on waiting times. And I can assure you, Chair, that that is absolutely true, particularly in the area that Councillor Hayes has alluded to, women's services. As we know, in this trust, gynecological outpatient waiting times are really, I would say, really at an impossible level. And any contribution that GPs can make to alleviating that pressure is something I feel which needs to be given priority. So I would welcome the Minister's commitment. I also am aware that in the budget announced by the Chancellor last week, there was additional funding provided to the Northern Ireland Executive. And I would hope that some of that could be invested in our health and social care services. So I would propose that we write back to the Minister and thank him for his commitment to GP elective services, but ask him if he will really prioritise those services as he has indicated his commitment in his letter. The other thing that I welcome, Chair, is his assurances that the temporary suspension of emergency surgical services in the South West Acute Hospital is not permanent. I welcome that. And also that the Minister is seeking to engage with Carrickmore Health Centre. We all know, Chair, that primary care services are in crisis at the moment, and that a major obstacle to the implementation of multidisciplinary teams is inadequate accommodation for these team members. So I welcome that engagement. And Chair, Councillor Hayes proposed the noting of the correspondence, and I will second it. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Next we go to Councillor Debbie Coyle in the chamber.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, a very disappointing letter, but I just wanted to mention a report that was issued this October of this year around the economic case for investing in women's health. And it revealed the high cost to the economy of women being unable to work due to the range of conditions, not being treated effectively, and obviously on long waiting lists. And it also states for every £1 spent on women's health, there's a return of £11 back into the economy. The reason women have to, this is because of the absenteeism from work through heavy or painful periods, fibroids, ovarian cancers or breast cancers, menopause, and so on. I find the letter very negative and very finger-pointing. There's nothing, I don't read too much positive in it, and I agree with Councillor Hayes. And I'd like to ask the Minister, what is he doing for over 50% of our population? And he would do as well to read this report on women's health, because it's very informative, and you know, it's just costing the economy so much money. It would be really worthwhile, you know, that everybody takes a read at it, really. But women's health has to be, and the women's health strategy, you know, is he supportive of that? Because we really need that. If they're happy enough, if Nolene and Josephine are happy to add that in, please.
Okay. Sorry, I'm the consultant here with it. I'm going to let the Chief Executive speak here for a second.
Sorry, Chair, maybe just on that, but I'll certainly defer to members' wishes on it. I think Councillor Hayes' proposal was that obviously run the commentary back to the Minister about stop blaming others, but it's specifically to ask what plans he is proposing to tackle the healthcare crisis within the district. And then that could be supplemented, obviously, with the specific reference to women's health.
Women's health,
I think that Councillor Deehan's proposal was quite specific around thanking the Minister for his commitment to GP services and really seeking an assurance that he prioritises these. So I think there may be differences. They may all be broadly, might just be easier to do as two separate proposals.
And if Nolene's happy enough, then thank you.
You're seconding both, Debbie?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, go to Councillor Barry McElduff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Chair, you remember from the special council meeting, page 5, that I had proposed that we write to Minister Nesbitt seeking urgent clarification around the Carrickmore Health Centre issue. I'm glad that he has replied reasonably substantively in his letter to that point. What I would say is that it requires perhaps greater urgency than is indicated in the letter. My question would be, will there be diggers on site or new accommodation for Carrickmore Health Centre in the calendar year of 2025? Because this doesn't need to be kicked down the road for years and years to come. It's great that we've seen progress recently in respect of Lisnaskea. That's very, very good. And Lisnaskea and Carrickmore were always mentioned together as the two priorities within the southern sector of the Western Health Trust. And just a reminder that this is a largely rural practice, 10,000 plus patients, building too small, not fit for purpose, and it's preventing the rollout of multidisciplinary teams as well. And after all, rural Mid-Tyrone is a place where health inequalities are keenly felt. So I would be asking Minister Nesbitt again, I would propose some detail around timelines of process. He said that he's keen to move at pace, but timings will be dependent on the outcome of the process. Now, let's not this kick down the road till 2026 or 2027 or 2028. This has gone on for years. In relation to the meeting with the council, we are health stakeholders. We are democratically elected health stakeholders. And one issue that the Minister has consistently refused to address is the acute mental health unit promised for Omagh. So again, I would like to propose a return correspondence on the issue of urgency and when, timelines in respect of Carrickmore Health Centre. I'm glad that he's going to visit. But secondly, ask why all of our correspondences, the substantive issue of the new promised acute mental health unit in Omagh is not being addressed. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right, next we'll go to Councillor Seamus Green.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to agree with everyone that has spoken there. I suppose as far as Lisnaskea Health Centre is concerned, I haven't been down that direction recently, down that end of town, but I presume it still hasn't been any shovels in the ground at this stage. It was promised December 23 by the Permanent Secretary. It was then promised that shovels would be in the ground in June 24. And then recently there, about a month or 6 weeks ago, there was another announcement made that shovels would soon be on the ground. We're now in November 24 and still none. So I'm just wondering, should we ask the Minister when is he making another announcement of when Lisnaskea Health Centre is going to open? Because that's, as far as patients in that practice are concerned, that's really all we ever hear is an announcement that it's going to start. We're 3 now and counting. So hopefully before there's another announcement of when it's starting, it actually will start. As for the services west of the Ban in the rural west, all I see, and even around the new health strategy, all I see is stripping services. That seems to be the Enniskillen Hospital, the SWA, been downgraded from an acute hospital down to a general hospital. Omagh seems to be that it's been downgraded from whatever designation it has now to almost a glorified health centre. That seems to be the bright new hope for health. you know, that seems to be what we are being expected to throw up our hands and cheer on. But I don't think we should be cheering that on. I think we had a professor in here a couple of years ago who had done a report commissioned, I believe, by the Irish government on the closure of small rural hospitals around the south to open up these new facilities, you know, these state-of-the-art facilities where medicine was going to be centred for cancer and heart and stroke and all this. And in his report, it showed that the outcomes were actually no better than when they had the local rural hospitals in place. So we need to be very careful with all singing, all dancing things that come before us. And I suppose, going back to what Councillor Gannon and different councillors said about this letter being condescending, arrogant, insulting to the council, I'm shocked at that, because I know the minister's SPAD is one of our own, and that definitely wouldn't be coming from him, you know, any of that type of attitude. So I'm shocked.
Sir Thomas O'Reilly.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, congratulations to Sinead on her appointment as Director, and delighted to see you here in the Chamber alongside the other Directors. So well done on that. Chair, the 3 million, as other councillors have said, investment for the local health centre has long been promised in Lisnaskea, and certainly we don't seem to be any closer to knowing exactly when work is going to start there. So I would join with other colleagues in asking that we try to define exactly when and if contractors are appointed at this stage, or what part of the process we are currently sitting at, and when we can actually expect the doors to be opened. But furthermore, and to that, is a reoccurrence, I suppose, of what happened to our Southwest Acute Hospital. I have no doubt that whatever is going to be built, Chair, is probably going to be a fine building. But without the staff to staff it, and without the doctors there, the building is no good in itself. And what I would also be very keen to find out of the Minister is what processes is he currently putting in place to ensure the proper level of staffing for the over 17,000 patients that we have, because we are understaffed at the minute and we can't get appointments, and people health is deteriorating because they literally can't get to see a doctor. So it is very important that we actually understand that there has to be additional processes put in place to attract and make sure that when the opening day comes that we have the proper level of staff. Can I also ask that in line with what Josephine said there, I mightn't be as confident in the return of general surgery till I would see it happening as the Minister is leading us to believe. And I'd like to understand from the Trust point of view at this stage where we are with exactly the recruitment to the Southwest Acute Hospital in line of consultants and so forth, to understand is the process of continuing to bring in locums at extraordinary fees still continue? Because there was certainly an undertaking given over a year ago that the nurse-led would be agency nurses and so forth would be done away with, and that it would be full-time staff nurse-wise, and also from a doctor's perspective as well. So I want to know if that is, where exactly are we in that process? And as has been mentioned, Chair, there has obviously been some additional money to the executive, and some of that, no doubt, will
be very flexible here, so wrap it up there, please.
Will trickle to health. Chair, and I'm asking that we look to put it on the Minister's radar, the cross-border health scheme that allowed patients that were waiting forever on waiting lists to be able to go and get their treatment in the south and be able to have that covered from the executive.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patrick Withers in the chamber.
Margaret Carley, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just want to comment on the Carrickmore Health Centre. So I also welcome the engagement from the Minister on that. But the reality is that when he's talking about development and investment and that progress continuing at pace, it's been an ongoing issue for many years, and the facilities are not fit for purpose. That's been the case now for several years. So hopefully that we'll see now from this engagement that, and when he's visiting the health centre, he will see the need for urgent progress on that and for progress and delivery. Thank you, Chair.
I take it you're second in Councillor McElduff's proposal.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Councillor O'Reilly had a proposal as well. And Councillor O'Reilly's proposal. Yeah. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I wasn't going to come in on this, but I felt I had to because unfortunately our Health Minister has really got a kick in here tonight, and that doesn't really surprise me because it's been happening fairly regularly now. Two things I would like to point out is one, and this is where this all starts from. You know, suddenly we heard tonight about the swab being downgraded from an acute hospital to a general hospital. That, to me, has all been hearsay. There is nothing concrete on that. That is something that came out. I don't know where it came out of, but it came out and appeared in the local press. And again, that's where these stories come out of. When the public out there hear stories like that, suddenly it's taken as gospel, and we all know it certainly isn't gospel. On the cross-border operation scheme that was going on, that was an excellent scheme. My own mother-in-law availed of it to get a knee replacement, and it was a very good scheme. But unfortunately, at the start of the last executive, there was a request put in to continue that scheme moving forward, but unfortunately there was no money for coming to it from the Department of Finance. So we can all sit here and blame the Health Minister from now to this time tomorrow, but if he's not getting the funding required for a lot of this stuff, then what's he supposed to do? You know, the scheme was a good scheme, and certainly we would like to see it introduced again, because it certainly did take a lot of the pressure of the health service in Northern Ireland when patients were able to go across the border and get it done elsewhere in Southern Ireland. But unfortunately that is not there anymore, but it's not the Health Minister's to blame. It's obviously the funding is the problem. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And this has been quite extensively debated, so I'm going to bring Councillor Anthony Feely in, and that's hopefully the last speaker on this.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll be very brief, and I just wanted to agree with what was said all night, but with Victor's comment there about the cross-border health scheme, it was a great scheme, but I just want to clarify, it was Brexit putting into that. It was nothing new with funding all this Brexit, so just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a number of proposals, and I'm going to ask the Chief Executive to, I think we'll go through them one at a time, and I'll just ask, I don't think there'll be any opposition to them, but we obviously have to go through it in the proper format. So I'm going to use the Chief Executive here to assist me.
Okay, Chair, thank you. So firstly, in relation to Councillor A's proposal that we would write back to the Minister, really seeking his clarification as to what plans he is what plans he has to address the healthcare crisis in the district. And then that was supplemented by Councillor Coyle's comments regarding making reference to the recently published report on the economic case for investing in women's health. and urging the Minister to reinstate all women's health provision. So that proposal was Councillor Hayes seconded by Councillor Coyle. Then we had, sorry.
So all in agreement? Thank you.
Then Councillor Deehan proposed, Chair, that we would write back to the Minister thanking him for the recognition of the importance of GP and primary care services and seeking formal clarification that he will prioritise these in the funding available. And that was seconded by Councillor Coyle.
All in agreement? No contraries, thank you.
That we then, Councillor McElduff's proposal in relation to Carrickmore Health Centre, really that we get certainty in relation to the timelines, in relation to the process, and specifically whether there will be construction commencing on site, emphasising the role of the council as democratically elected stakeholders and reiterating our concerns that in spite of repeated efforts to seek a response from the Minister in relation to the promised provision of the acute mental health unit at Omagh, no response has been forthcoming, and that was seconded by Councillor Withers.
Okay, all in agreement? Thank you.
Then proposed by Councillor O'Reilly, Chair, seconded by Councillor Withers, that we would write back to the Minister seeking again a detailed timescale as to exactly when site works will commence at Lisnaskea Health Centre, and also what arrangements or what processes the Minister is putting in place to ensure there will be an appropriate staffing model. And then in parallel, Chair, that we would clarify with the Western Trust really an update, and I'll maybe provide a separate comment just regarding the recruitment at South West Acute Hospital, and in particular the moving away from the locum consultant model, which was punitively expensive, and also clarifying the future funding for the cross-border health model, and if the Minister is going to assign funding to that. And again, that was Councillor Withers who seconded.
Okay, all in agreement? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And Chair, just in relation to Councillor O'Reilly's comments regarding the South West Acute Hospital and the Trust, we do have a health subcommittee meeting coming up before the end of November, and we could also request that it is included specifically as an agenda item regarding an update on the recruitment across the various posts, and in particular the move away from locum to permanent appointments.
Need a proposal or second for that?
No, not this.
No, that's it. Okay, thank you. There's another matter, and I think it would be more appropriate now. So if you don't mind, Chief Executive.
Yes, no, thank you, Chair. Chair, just on a related point, we have received correspondence from Savour Acute Services. The intention is that there will be a community gathering on the 14th of November, and the request is that the castle, also the Strail Arts Centre, would be illuminated in yellow. This is really to shine a light on the South West Acute Hospital, but in recognition of the service and support of all of the staff. Savour Acute Services have submitted documentation prior to the meeting that I haven't just had a chance to review, but subject to it being formally constituted and the request meeting policy, it would be something that we could support. So if I could maybe just seek Chair permission this evening that we would proceed on that basis, we will advise formally at Regeneration and Community, just to let you know if everything is in order, but it appears to be all in line.
Okay, Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll propose that.
Okay, thank you. Seconder, Councillor Crawford.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so
4.3 increase in insurance.
yes, okay, so we're still on page 3 and we've got item 4.3.
Okay, Chair, thank you. This is in relation to the increase in insurance premiums and the couple of letters that have been received in this regard. The first is from, I suppose, clarification really from the Competitions and Market Authority, who had previously said they may meet with the council, but you've seen from the correspondence, Chair, that there is a special task force has been established, and they have therefore determined that it would be more appropriate for the council to engage with the Financial Conduct Authority. So if members are content, we'd recommend obviously noting correspondence, but that we would proceed with the arrangement of that informal meeting. And then secondly, Chair, we have correspondence back from the Car Rental Council of Ireland. This was in relation to the council's concerns, I suppose, about representations members have received about increasing premiums, particularly coming south-north or north-south in terms of car hire. So the response says that that hasn't been identified as a particular concern, but what they are flagging up and are asking the council to make formal representations to is in relation to the electronic travel authorisation requirements, the ETA, which are likely to have an adverse impact on tourism across the island. So if members were reminded, Chair, the request is that we would make representations to the UK government regarding a derogation, but it may also be something that members would wish to highlight both to the Irish government and indeed to Europe.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Dermot Bryan in the chamber.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to propose to note that the correspondence from, and particularly just the one there from the Competition and Markets Authority. I'm delighted to see that there's going to be a government task force set up to look at this issue of car insurance. I've absolutely no doubt that they buckled under the pressure of our many letters that we were sending them. So I think that I would have concerns about this task force, given that there are very, very specific issues related to the north, and our car insurances are much higher than across the water in England. If this is going to be a Westminster task force, I just want to know where we fit into that. And I would maybe propose that we ask this task force, we write to this task force and ask them, how do they see the north fitting into this task force? What attention are they going to give to the very specific issues that we have here? And what representation we will have on this task force. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Debbie Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'll second that, please, and note the correspondence as well. And just to say, I had family here 2 weeks ago, and they had to pay a premium, extra £30 to be able to drive into the north. So, you know, there are extra premiums being paid just because you go, you know, to go one way or the other.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bryan, are you happy to note the second correspondence as well about the car rentals? Councillor Coyle? Yeah. Councillor Coyle, yeah? Yeah, okay, thank you. We have a proposal to note. Okay, thank you. So, page 4. With some correspondence.
Just at the bottom of, well, firstly, Chair, I just at item 4.4 in relation to the Dalradian public inquiry. Just to note, Chair, we have identified a number of quite significant procedural concerns in relation to the inquiry, including the exchange of statements of case. And we have, through our legal team, highlighted that with the Planning Appeals Commission, and a response is awaited. And I understand other stakeholders have raised similar concerns. In relation to item 4.5, we have 2 letters, Chair, in this response to this item. The first from the Parades Commission really is in response to our earlier letter, which was setting out the Council's concerns regarding the closure of the A5. The second letter from the Police Service of Northern Ireland was our more recent consideration of the matter, in which the Council really sought an assurance that the road wouldn't be closed again. And in the response, the PSNI have indicated that the Chief Constable has requested that while they can't give a guarantee that a similar situation wouldn't arise, there would be consultation and early engagement with all stakeholders to minimise disruption.
Councillor Campbell.
Well, Carly, thank you. And I too want to welcome Sinead and wish Sinead well in her new role. I know that regeneration, community and planning is something that you have great expertise in, and wish you every success. And in relation to the correspondence, I suppose from the PSNA, it's no better than the last correspondence, really, and it's disappointing, you know, that to quote, they can't give a cast iron guarantee that the road will not be closed under similar circumstances. It seems to imply in the letter that the circumstances relate to medical emergencies. However, it's my understanding that the road was closed, you know, for an event at the Ballygolly Roundabout organised by the Black Institution. You know, so an event at the Ballygolly Roundabout where traffic from Derry Donegal, Belfast and Dublin meets, which isn't maybe the best location, but that's beside the point. But it's my understanding that that's the reason the road was closed. In fact, were we not assured that no emergency vehicles were delayed as a result of the road closure? That was in previous correspondence. So it's not the case, as this seems to imply, that the circumstances were that medical emergencies caused the road to be closed. It was that it was closed because of at least one event, possibly, so it's disappointing. I think, if you consider, we often lament the current A5 and the impact that it has on inward investment. That's just one example. How many freight lorries are going to be diverted along those roads that simply can't handle the traffic, can't handle normal traffic, never mind freight lorries? How many businesses are going to be diverted? What sort of message is that sending to potential inward investors? It's backward to be closing an A-class road. It shouldn't be happening. It's disappointing. And I'd also say that it's disrespectful to the people of our district who need to use that road. And we heard of stories of people visiting family members in hospital being delayed as well. So it's disrespectful. There's been no reasonable rationale given. And the cast iron guarantee that the road won't be closed, to me, reads as a cast iron guarantee that it will be closed. And that's totally unacceptable, Chairman.
Thank you. Are you proposing the note then? Yeah. Sorry, I'll let you back in.
I'm really at a loss to do otherwise at this point. We have, I propose we note. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor McElduff.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I want to support Councillor Campbell. We have been contacted by a huge number of people about what happened on that day. And when we talk about an A-class road, let's remind ourselves we're talking about the A5 Western Transport Corridor, as Councillor Campbell has outlined. Now, in the letter from the PSNI, it said that in future, should a request be submitted for a similar sized event in this area, then early engagement takes place with all stakeholders. I think we should write back to Chief Superintendent Mervyn Seffen, explicitly and expressly requesting that this council be treated as a stakeholder, that we be notified in advance. And again, this is not about the type of event, it's about the closure of the A5 Western Transport Corridor. And to try to equalise things, I did say at the last meeting, right in the middle of the A5 Western Transport Corridor is their Dearvahi GEA Centre of Excellence. Now, if there was to be a big match there, I don't think the A5 Western Transport Corridor should be closed to facilitate such a thing in the future either. There's no suggestion that that would ever happen or be looked for, but the A5 Western Transport Corridor must be kept open. And the side roads are not fit to take the level and volume of traffic when the diversions are taking place. And that's involuntary, that's in the event of tragic situations, but let's not close the A5 Western Transport Corridor for events of this nature. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair, and I'd like to second Councillor McElduff's proposal to write back and ask that we are included as a stakeholder.
Yeah, and second the noting. Okay, thank you. Councillor Rainey.
Thank you, Chair. I did make a comment last month on the same subject. And Remembrance Sunday morning is upon us once again. I'll be one of those that I'll be asking for the road to be closed for 40 minutes. Perhaps, 30 minutes will see the event through. But any emergencies is always and always has been allowed through. And as for any 8 of the HGVs, they always seem to be very cooperative to take a rest for the 30 minutes or whatever. But on that occasion, I'll be asking that the road be closed for the act of remembrance on the Ballygolly Road as a result of the 8 soldiers that lost their lives because of a bomb that was placed underneath their bus returning to Bury.
Thank you, Councillor Rooney. So are we all in agreement? We asked that we considered as proposed by Councillor McAuliffe, signed by Councillor Cole, that we be considered a stakeholder for a consultation should the road be closed for such events again. Everyone in agreement? Okay, thank you. Next, Councillor Ovens, I see you. Councillor Ovens, I see you have your hand up there online. I missed you.
Yep, thank you, Chair. Don't worry, it was about a separate matter on page 4. It's 4.4, the Council's participation in the public inquiry. Chair, it was me that raised this at last month's meeting, and at that stage we were told it was going to be dealt with under an upcoming committee meeting, the planning committee meeting, which I note it was. And I've looked through the confidential reports, and I'll not reference that anymore now in open session. But the one thing, Chair, I asked about last month was how much this council had spent so far in terms of its participation in the public inquiry. That hasn't been resolved. And I mean, there is huge public concern in relation to this. I note, again, Chair, unfortunately, but entirely avoidably, in my opinion, this council got another hammering in one of the papers locally because of that perceived lack of transparency. And Chair, I mean, 6 months ago, I went on the record and said this council hasn't been transparent in relation to this public inquiry. So, Chair, could I ask again tonight, how much have we spent? How much, firstly, have we budgeted this year? Is it still the 400,000 or the 300,000 plus the 100,000 from last year that we were told about? Is that figure still valid? I appreciate then there's another lump sum within reserves. Have we touched that? And how much costs have actually been incurred to date? And Chair, I mean, it's important that this be done openly and transparently, because we've learned the hard way over recent months, Chair. The more this council tries to do under confidential session, the worse it gets and the worse the impact is. So, Chair, it's asking for a little bit of detail on those. And then just in relation to this inquiry, the more that we open, or the more we act in open session, the better. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Executive.
Yeah, I suppose maybe on that latter point, Chair, I think as all members are aware, there are certain requirements and provisions under law by when we go into committee. Those are the only requirements when we do so, and that is the only time we have done so in relation to the Dalradian public inquiry. And that, for clarity, the provisions are set out in the Local Government Act, relate primarily to legal advice, matters which are deemed exempt for publication, human resource and related financial matters. In terms of the financial queries, I'd refer Councillor Ovens to the previous report on this matter that was considered at Policy and Resources. There's no further information to provide at this point. If there is anything further, we will be reporting it through the normal channels. And in relation to the estimates process, as was articulated here previously, and I know by members, the estimates process is extremely open, detailed and thorough. And certainly any information is available there for any member or member of the public who wishes to access it.
Okay. Okay.
Chair, just on that, if I could come back in, just.
I'm just very briefly, Mark.
Yeah, it's just in relation to that. Chair, could I make a request or a formal proposal as such, then if it needs to be, that a further update be brought forward to next week's P&R committee on this? Because my specific query is, how much have we spent so far? It's not the previous query of, how much are we setting aside or how much do we think we're going to spend? This specific query is, how much of ratepayers' money have we spent to date and on what? Thank you.
Chair, that's why I referred the member to the previous report. To the best of my knowledge, no subsequent invoices have been received in the intervening period. If that situation has changed, we would report accordingly to Policy and Resources, or indeed, depending on the nature of the report, or to the Planning Committee.
Okay. Let's go on now to page 5 on item 4.6, Tourism Initiative. Members, we have Monaghan Council have facilitated us with a visit to the Peace Plus, or the Peace Campus, and obviously they're going to great lengths to welcome us. And please consider making yourselves available, as the uptake is, well, it's embarrassing at this stage. So I'm just going to put it out there. It's embarrassing, the uptake from members. So I don't know whether I'll be going or not, but if you can please have a look at your calendars and see if you can go to this. If we've asked for something and it's been facilitated for us, I think we should be availing of it. And I'm not going to comment any further on that. So page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8.
Just in relation to page 8, item 10.1, and this was in relation to the discussion at last month's meeting regarding the draft programme for government. There had been particular concern raised of the exclusion of Tyrone as a venue for one of the public meetings. And that was rectified almost immediately by the Executive Office. I think the next day we had received notification of an event in the Burnavon, so the letter that issued, I suppose the facts had superseded. But I suppose just to confirm that, Chair, you convened a meeting with members and officials from the Executive Office that was held on the 29th of October. There was further engagement on the draft programme for government, and members' comments were incorporated into that as part of our final submission, which was made in advance of the deadline.
Councillor McElduff.
Thank you, Chair. I think it was positive that we did engage, so much with the programme for government team. Everybody played their part in trying to restate our sub-regional priorities. So that was inherently a good thing. Councillors present were perhaps sceptical about whether or not we're being heard. That said, at least we made the case for the deficits in this sub-region. I'm just taking you back briefly till the Monaghan visit. I think some of us were unaware of the registration arrangement. Maybe we overlooked it, but I know that Councillor Coyle and I intend to be in Monaghan on that Friday morning, just to give you that reassurance, John.
Thank you very much. Okay. And as I said, that engagement with that group was particularly good as well. So where we page 9, page 10, page 11, Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It's just with regard to item 13.2, the Vet Awards Ireland Northern Irish Veterans Awards. I know we had the recorded vote, which was disappointing last month on that one. However, I did attend that. My wife and myself attended, as Councillor Crawford was also there, in our individual capacities. But I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate a group from our district, and that is MAPS, who are Lower Market Street, and getting Veteran Group of the Year. So I would go further. I would like to propose that yourself, on behalf of this council, write a letter to MAPS congratulating them on their award for all the work that they do right across this district for hundreds of people out there right across the district. So I would like to propose that a letter be sent. And maybe if you could see your way, maybe to giving them a reception before the end of your term as well. Thank you, Chair.
If you complete the necessary paperwork, and Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Chair. I'd also like to second that proposal and give my congratulations to MAPS as well. It was a wonderful achievement on the night. Thank you.
Thank you. And I did have a chance to meet with a delegation from MAPS on Saturday morning. They had a trip arranged to the Enniskillen Castle Museums, and I was able to welcome them there in my capacity as chair. So we heard the proposal that we send a letter of congratulations to MAPS, proposed by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Crawford. All in agreement? Anybody contrary? Oh, thank you. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15.
Thanks, Chair. Just on page 15, just members, you'll be aware that we have been providing updates in relation to the Fermanagh Lakeland Forum. So we'd be seeking now approval that we would convene a special council meeting on the 16th of December, and that would be for the presentation of the full business case and associated investment decision.
Need a proposer and seconder for that. Councillor Paul Robinson and Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly. All in agreement? Thank you. Page 16. Page 17. Okay. Thank you. So, where am I going now?
Planning Committee, 7th, so 18th of September.
Okay. Yeah. So next we go to the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 18th, and we had Councillor Campbell and Councillor John Feely standing in for the chair on that occasion. So page 1, page 2, and this is for accuracy, by the way, 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, page 21, page 22, page 23, page 24, page 25, page 26. Yes. So I'm looking at a proposer. Councillor Campbell is proposing, Councillor Feely second. Okay. So matters arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page 14, page 15, page 16, page 17, page 18, page 19, page 20, page 21, page 22, page 23, page 24, page 25, and page 26. Councillor McElduff.
Yep, page 25, Chair. Item 14.2.1. I've heard Councillor McCann talk about this subject. It's NI water economic constraints. Is any of the directors in a position to tell us what is the state of play?
We do have correspondence on that,
Right.
and we will be touching upon that later on.
Okay, fine. Have enough of that.
Yeah, if that's okay. Thank you. So next we go to the Environmental Services Committee on Wednesday the 2nd, and that was chaired by Councillor Garvin McPhillips. So accuracy, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Garvin's happy to propose, and Councillor Robinson second. So matters arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5. Okay. Next we go to Regeneration and Community Committee, and Councillor Adam Gannon chaired that. There he is there. Page accuracy, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13. You proposing that? Thank you. Second, Councillor Eric Hobson. 3 for accuracy, or for matters arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 6.
No, you're right. Page 8, sorry.
Sorry. So page 6, Councillor Robinson.
Chair, item 5.2, I propose to remit to agriculture. Committee and Stormont. Is there any arrangements made yet, or what's the progress on?
Sorry, Chair. Yes, we have been liaising. We're just trying to get a date that works for the majority of members. But my understanding is they're looking favourably. There have been some personnel changes at the committee level, so we'll follow up again on the correspondence, Chair. But we were hoping to get a date that worked for in the first instance for the majority of our local MLAs before the wider committee hearing. But that is in progress.
Okay. Councillor Debbie Coyle.
Chair, my issues on or questions for page 7. So if anybody wants to come in before.
No, I don't think so. I'm not seeing anybody else indicating on page 6. So page 7.
Yeah, it's just on 6.2. I had asked that question, but really what I wasn't really looking for the roles and responsibilities of statutory organisations. I was really looking for a report on the traveller support groups where the agencies meet together and the support that's been given to travellers over the years, because these groups have been set up for years, how the travellers are actually benefiting from, you know, these group meetings. And we've had travellers come in and talk to us about providing land. And I know the roles and responsibilities are there in that report, but, you know, what the group has managed to do, you know, a report from the group, you know, what they've actually, how travellers have actually managed to benefit from those meetings, rather than the roles and responsibilities of each department. It was a report back of what actually has been done over the years and how travellers, if anything, you know, have they been able to benefit from that.
Sorry, Chair, that might have been a misunderstanding then on our part. Based on what Councillor Coyle has said, it might be better that we would arrange maybe a workshop or a meeting. We could certainly do a report, but I imagine that sort of detail would actually come much better through engagement rather than necessarily narrative. So it's really with the various traveller support agencies, ideally with some of the people they have helped and supported and how they have progressed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, we can actually.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Debbie. So, kind of a seconder for that from Debbie, just to keep it right. Councillor Colette McMillan. So, page 7, page 8. The Vice Chair wants to come on page 8.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. With regard to the lighting issue at the cottage lawn, although I'm disappointed with the findings of the current business case proposed regarding lighting, health and safety concerns, dark skies, etc., I'm aware that a business or at a previous meeting, a further business case proposal was requested by members. I'm also aware that council officials will be meeting for a consultation on the matter regarding the cottage lawn. Therefore, I would like to request that the council officials partaking in the consultation process, linking with the DEA representatives from Air and West regarding all manners of the consultation process and outcomes, community engagement and any proposed site meetings for the cottage lawn in the future. Thank you.
It's fine, Chair. I suppose just to note the recommendations now will only be actioned following this evening, so it would be the norm for us to engage with members. So we can certainly progress that as part of that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. So page 9. Oh, Councillor Robbins. Go ahead, Mark.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. And it's in relation to 7.2 Enniskillen bid. Chair, it's just very briefly, I like many thousands of other people across Fermanagh in particular, were at the Halloween fireworks display I think it was last Thursday night in Enniskillen, that was organised by Enniskillen bid, supported of course, or it simply wouldn't have been possible without the financial firepower of NSERC as well. I think that was a brilliant night. I think there was a bigger crowd there than there were previously, if not bigger. There was a real sense of optimism about it. It was a real family event. The fireworks display themselves were brilliant. And Chair, regrettably, I heard it from many people, and certainly lots of people that were coming up to me to talk about it. It was regrettable that it took the likes of Enniskillen Bid and NSERC, a big employer as they are. It's regrettable that it took them to step up, where this council regrettably chose not to. But it's on this issue of Enniskillen Bid, Chair. I think it's worthwhile at this monthly meeting to just commend all in Enniskillen Bid and all in NSERC in particular for a job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. So page 8 to page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, page Councillor McAuliffe.
Yep, on page 12, just hoping that there'll be an imminent meeting, or at least a meeting in the near future, of the sites working group in respect of OMA. Not necessarily needing that to be pinned down in the here and now, but is there a date?
Sorry, Chair, yes, there is a date, as members have noted. Sinead started yesterday.
Okay.
So I believe it's the 16th of December. I think that has been in, and if it hasn't circulated, it will do imminently, because that has been held. And I think the preference is for in person for that engagement. Yes.
Item 9.2, Chair. Parking issues in Oma, in the town of Oma, in the town centre. And people will know, members will know, Councillor Thompson will certainly know from his attendance as well. Recent meeting in Old Market Place. One of the hotspots in Oma where there's a disproportionate number of fines being doled out morning, noon and night. And it's having a disabling effect on business. It's driving business away from Oma. So I'm hoping that we will secure a date as proposed at the RNC meeting for a tripartite meeting, because so far any meetings we've been involved in as councillors, DFA parking or DFA representatives haven't been present. So we need a tripartite meeting involving Oma DEA councillors, DFA representatives and business representatives. There's a number of hotspots in Oma, and it's really, really bad, the amount of fines that are being handed out. It comes across to the people as persecuting, comes across as punitive, no effort to accommodate business, quick deliveries. John Street, there's a different dimension of a problem there, and it's described to me in the following terms. If you were to go to the credit union, if you were to go to Sally's for lunch, there's a very strong possibility that you'll be handed a parking fine. And things are expensive enough, without another £45 or £90 on top of that. Now, there's an urban clearway in operation in John Street, Oma, and we would have been consulted on that in the past by DFA Roads, and it would have been presented to us as a necessary measure for the alleviation of traffic congestion heading to the Dromore Road. So, but I was there on Saturday, and I witnessed the same traffic warden circling about 20 times in a reasonably short period. And it appeared that they were trying to catch people. It appeared that way to me 20 times. In fact, the person I spoke to was handed a traffic fine later in the day. And in an empty street, it was in an empty street at 4 o'clock, and deliveries to and from a furniture shop. So whatever the intention of this is, it's having unintended consequences, that it's persecuting businesses. And I would ask that we write to DFA asking for a review of the urban clearway, its effectiveness. Is it achieving what it was set out to achieve, which is the alleviation of traffic congestion in that part of Oma? And is it having unintended consequences of driving people away from John Street? And I would like the businesses of John Street to be actively consulted in that process. So that's a proposal, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. I'm going to go next to Councillor Earl Thompson, and I also have Councillor Deegan online. Councillor Podrigan Kelly has been flicking in and out online. Podrigan, if you can turn your camera on, otherwise I have to exclude you from, and I know you maybe haven't. Okay, is that okay? Right, thank you. So Councillor Earl Thompson.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. And like Councillor McElduff, I did attend the meeting involving the Chamber of Commerce and other businesses, and the PSNI were there as well, and obviously Tom Buchanan, MLA. It was quite a, I suppose, heated discussion with regard to Old Market Place, and I know this has been an ongoing issue for quite a time, and Director John Hughes was there as well. Maybe he can come in on this issue as well. But certainly with regard to a meeting, I'll be seconding Councillor McElduff on that issue. With regard to the wider piece that he's talking about, the John Street issue, I suppose over the years we've had issues in John Street, and but I'm happy enough to second his proposal with regard to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Director Hughes, maybe.
I'm gonna, before I bring in Director John Hughes, I'm gonna bring in Councillor Josephine Deacon, who's also in the Oma DEA. I do have Councillor Seamus Green, but I'm not going to exclude him, but he's just not in the Oma DEA, but I'll bring him in then. Okay. So if you go ahead, Josephine.
Thank you, Chair, and I want to support Councillor McElduff's proposal, supported by Councillor Thompson. No, I mean, it is a real issue in Oma Town, and those of us who listen to BBC Radio Ulster, Good Morning Ulster in the morning, would be aware that to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the BBC, there was a visit to Oma, and members of Oma Chamber of Commerce were interviewed. I think it was yesterday morning, and this very issue was presented, and Emma Miller in particular spoke about the difficulties that were being experienced in Old Market Place, and the impact that parking issues generally were having on businesses in Oma. And I know when the Oma DEA councillors have brought the issue of parking in Old Market Place previously to the department, the response has been less than sympathetic and really did not bear any positive fruits. Now, whether or not we will have any more favourable discussions, I don't know. It remains to be seen. But, Chair, it is a matter of huge concern that businesses are being impacted by parking issues. And I know that we as a council had explored additional parking, particularly parking in the car park reserve for the staff of the county hall, particularly coming up to the Christmas period. And I would like to propose that we maybe should explore that with them again in the run-up to the festive season. But it's a very serious matter, and we are aware of a long-standing business in the Old Marketplace, which has closed recently, very sadly and regrettably. So I think it behoves us as a council to do everything that we can to support our business community, because it is hard enough for them. And I agree that with Councillor McElduff that this punitive type of enforcement of parking restrictions is being interpreted by the general public as being harassment. And we know why there is parking enforcement. It is to support the free flow of traffic through our town. And where people are parked in a manner that blocks the traffic, obviously, then we would support, the enforcement of parking fines. But I think there has to be room for judgment there, and for parking wardens to be circling and circling and circling, just waiting for a parking ticket to expire by a short period of time. I think that's not good enough. So I want to be supportive of the proposal, and would be willing to do whatever I can as an Oma councillor to support the business community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. See, Councillor Stephen McCann has joined us online. Stephen, if you can turn your camera on, otherwise I can't accept any votes or discussion from you. Thank you. I'm going to bring in Director John Hughes at this stage.
Thank you, Chair. Just in respect of a number of the points that members have raised, following on from the RNC meeting, we have identified, from work with Democratic Services, we have identified a number of optional dates, and a letter is ready to go out to DFI tomorrow morning. So certainly we've been checking in terms of members' diaries and all the commitments on those dates. Those dates are all over the course of the next 2 weeks. So I said we will be pressing and emphasising on DFI the urgency of the meeting. Within that letter, we've also taken the opportunity to reflect the strength of feeling that was expressed at the meeting that was organised by OMA Chamber of Commerce that the members have referenced for. I think it's safe to say that I think there was, I haven't counted them individually, but between 12, maybe 15 different individuals, many of them representing businesses within the OMA Town Centre area. And so we've reflected that strength of feeling, hopefully in the letter to the DFI, and pressed them for an early response.
Okay. Thank you. And finally, sorry, Seamus, I'm going to bring you in now.
Thanks, Chair. No, it's a very serious issue, and hopefully it will be got sorted and to everyone's satisfaction. I suppose I just wanted to come in and by not making light of the subject or anything, but I want to come in and say that the likes of Maguire's Bridge, Brewper, Roslay, Newton Butler, Lisnaskey, very seldom, if ever, see a red coat. So if people are looking a safer alternative to shopping rather than Enniskillen and Omagh, they could maybe call out there and east and visit some of the local rural towns.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's the direction you were going to come on, Seamus. Councillor McElduff, I'm letting you in there very quickly.
Yep, I'll second Councillor Deehan's proposal. I welcome the fact that Councillor Deehan mentioned that we can make approaches till DFI roads about making available the car park at Drumrah Avenue in Omagh for the Christmas period. I think we have a similar type engagement with the Southwest College, that their large car parks could be opened up to accommodate shoppers in Omagh in the run-up to Christmas. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Chief Executive's going to come in here.
Just very briefly, Chair, I think also if members were content in previous years when we had done such initiatives, it was very much in conjunction with Omagh Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate there's a reconfiguration and so on going on with the Chamber, but sometimes just having the business voice is helpful. So we would seek to put in place a similar arrangement just regarding that communication if you were content.
Okay. And page 13. Thank you. Next we go to Policy and Resources. That was chaired by Councillor Victor Warrington on the 9th of October. So page 1 for accuracy, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 4. Yeah, proposed by Councillor Warrington. I'm looking at second, Councillor Mahan. Okay, so now matters arising. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 3, Councillor Warrington. Oh, sorry, I have to turn you up.
Thank you, Chair. On page 3, we obviously had quite a discussion that night on our estimates, and I think it's fair to say that our party took quite a bit of criticism or was pointed towards us. On that night, I was obviously in the chair, and I respect that position and felt that I couldn't comment. But you know, it was levelled at us that you know, the time to make proposals and to make suggestions was at the pre-estimates meeting. I would point out strongly that on the last meeting before the actual night of the that we set the rates, that I had made suggestions that night, and because a certain party were not here to maybe counter them or to respond to them, it's not my problem. But I just want to point that out, that there was suggestions made on the last night before the rates were set. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Green.
Yeah, I suppose I was expecting that, and just to set the scene on why a certain party, Sinn Féin, wasn't there. Our policy wasn't to cross the picket line, unlike other parties that did cross the picket line. So that's the reason why we weren't there at that, and we made our views clear. We did ask, could it be put another night, but we weren't going to cross the workers' picket line, unlike Victor's party.
Thank you, Seamus. So page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 8. Councillor McElduff. Sorry.
Is this a record? I want to thank DFA Roads. So this might be a record, but on behalf of any councillor. But in relation to phase 1 road improvement on the Dromore Road, Oma, we heard it from Conor Granger, the section engineer, that they did enter into dialogue and conversation with businesses and did reach a satisfactory conclusion about a later starting time for roadworks there, again, not to disable business. And also to thank DFA Roads for the white line markings in and around the taxi rank and Drumra Avenue car park. For many years now, it was very, very faded and contributed to a lack of safety, I felt and others felt, but it's great to see the white line markings so extensive and so clear at that location now, aiding safety. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. And Councillor Thomas O'Reilly.
Chair, as somebody that can be critical of road service and their lack of funding to our local area, can I echo Barry's thank you to the service for the work that was done on the A3 road between the Clonus Cross and the border with Cavan. And that is a main road coming through from Dublin that brings a lot of traffic, and it has been resurfaced for just shy of a mile, and has made a tremendous difference to all that use that road, and particularly coming into the winter. So I want to say congratulations to the road service.
Thank you. Councillor Seamus Green.
And in contrary to the previous two councillors, from somebody that very seldom ever criticises road service, I want to criticise them. In relation to the standard of the roads in County Fermanagh, I happened there in the last week or two, had the opportunity to travel a lot of rural roads in other northern counties, and I have to say that the standard of roads in the other 5 counties, especially the rural roads, are of a far, far higher standard than in County Fermanagh. And I would defy anybody to drive the back roads and by roads of the north of Ireland and come to any other conclusion but that Fermanagh is not getting its fair share of the roads budget. So that's all I'll say. And that goes back through all administrations, all different parties that has held that. I will hold them all to account and stand over that. And anyone that disagrees with me, I will bring them round the roads and drive the rural roads. And if they can contradict me, I'd be very, very surprised.
Thank you, Seamus. And Councillor Rosemary Barton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My question's in relation to the Enniskillen Hockey Club, that the proposal that you were to write to the Education Authority, have you had any reply? And if so, what?
Okay, Chair, so those minutes have just been adopted this evening. So we will not be able to action those until after this evening. So we will progress that in coming days. And similarly, in terms of future report will be brought to Regeneration and Community, probably the December meeting, if possible.
Okay, and Councillor Robert Irvine.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's through the Chair. It's just a point of clarity directed through you back to Councillor Green. When he refers to roads in County Fermanagh, does he mean then the roads in that part of County Tyrone that belong to Fermanagh and Oban District Council are of a higher standard? If there is, obviously, there's a disparity there, and if he would like to raise that as well. Otherwise, if he's referring to the roads, it should be the roads in Fermanagh and Oban District Council area rather than just purely County Fermanagh. Thank you.
Yes, Seamus.
I will stick to my original statement.
Thank you, Seamus. Okay. Next, we go to the Planning Committee on Wednesday, the 16th of October, and we have Councillor Tommy Maguire chaired that. So, page, for accuracy, page 1. Is Tommy not here?
It's okay with me.
Right. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10. Councillor Maguire may have nipped out for some error. So we'll go anybody that was at the meeting. Councillor Irvine and second by Councillor Thompson. Next we'll go through for Matters Arising, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, and is this correct? Okay. So next go where have we got too many? So next we go to correspondence. So yeah.
Chair, just in relation to correspondence, we have 2 items from Northern Ireland Water, both on separate matters. The first is a response from the Chief Executive, really confirming in relation to her previous representations on Lough Macrory water treatment works that all information is now held by NIW to enable them to proceed to initiate a PAD. So that's just for information. So just suggest a proposer and seconder to note, please, Chair.
So we're going to propose and seconder to note. Councillor Warrington and Councillor Crawford.
And then, Chair, the second matter, which Councillor McElduff referenced earlier in the meeting, and indeed which was the subject of a fairly substantive report at last month's Planning Committee meeting, is the issue of the constraints on development, really, as a result of Northern Ireland water infrastructure. So this letter is a request from NI Water to come in and present to the Council. A lot of the detail has actually been reported through the Planning Committee, and the implications that has now, essentially making quite a large number of settlements in our district extremely constrained by way of future development. But the area really so I imagine members will wish to accommodate this meeting, Chair, but as I've highlighted, it is really a matter of particular concern. NI Water are proposing that they engage with you virtually through Teams or WebEx. That may be how you wish to proceed, but equally, given the seriousness of this matter, you may prefer an in-person engagement on the subject.
Okay. Councillor McElduff.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I had heard Councillor McCann speak about this previously, and I'm glad that he's online, because I know he had a very important community meeting this evening, which he tried to attend as well as the council meeting. So I'm glad that that matter is concluded for tonight so that he can join this meeting. I know he's strong on this issue, but the future of our local settlements is a big issue, as has been acknowledged. So I would propose that we do that meeting in person, that we seek an in-person meeting with NI Water to progress this issue. And maybe if councillors, even councillors beyond the LDP and local plan process, if we could be advised at this time of the timeline for progressing the local development plan. I can't imagine we can go into great detail, but communities are anxious about the future of their settlements and housing distribution and all of that type of thing. So we have a steering group, an LDP steering group, and they're looking at the local policies plan, as I understand it. But for the benefit of the rest of us who aren't involved in that week-to-week work, what is the story with the local policies plan at this time? Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'm going to bring in Councillor Robert Irvine. Sorry, Robert, for light you up now.
Thanks very much, Chair. Thanks, John. No, this was discussed at the last planning committee meeting, as the members basically that were at it can attest to. It is quite worrying, probably in some areas extremely worrying. But I think if we're going to bring Northern Ireland Water down, I think one of the pertinent questions, possibly another planning committee members might concur with me, is that whilst they've highlighted the deficiencies already in the system, and they've highlighted the capacity, the future capacity basically going forward, which will allow future development, there are numerous settlements, both small, medium, and even large, that have constraints on them. What we would ask, I think, or I personally would want to know, is what's their proposal to actually deal with this deficit going forward? It's no use actually coming to say that they have a constrained budget year on year. Everybody has a constrained budget year on year. We need to know what their proposals are, in particular for our district, but bearing in mind that there are 10 other council districts that also have possibly similar or slightly dissimilar problems, bearing in mind that we are a predominantly rural council area with small to medium size concentrations of urban occupation, but we have a lot of dispersed wastewater treatment plants, and we would actually need work on them. So what we need to see, I think, as a council, which would inform our LPP as well as our plan policy, what their proposals are in the short, medium and long term to actually make up the deficit and allow expansion to go forward in line with our plan strategy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And next I'm going to go to Councillor Stephen McCann, who I know debated this strongly as well. Stephen, if you want to come in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and apologise, Chair, for joining the meeting late and also being on WebEx. I know you like to have people in the chamber for these full council meetings, so apologies. But I want to second Councillor Michael Duff's proposal that we do take them down and in person, and it's good that this option is available for all council members. I know members of the Plan Committee will be aware of the finer detail, I suppose, but this is an issue that affects every single of the 40 reps in the council. Those in our rural areas who are seeking to build in the rural areas are already constrained, I suppose, to a certain element by planning constrictions or restrictions as to where and when you can build. But that's compounded even now by the facility of NI Water to deal with the sewage, and many of our segments are now at capacity, and many more are reaching capacity. And what's even more worrying, Chair, is that the option for separate, private sewage things to kind of deal with individual developments aren't actually available either, due to different issues with the sewage. So it's a huge issue, and it'll really impact rural dwellers. So we do need to get them down, I suppose. And this does warrant an in-person meeting with them. So fully support Councillor Michael Duff's proposal there. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not going to make any aspirations on what you're at, Councillor McCann, but your silhouette is very recognisable.
Thank you, Chair. Very unique.
Councillor Seamus Green.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think Barry made a proposal there, so I'll second that if indeed he did. I think we do.
Stephen's already seconded.
All right. I think we do need an update around it. I think all the councillors need a regular update on how this is going, so I would hope that would happen. I suppose going to NIW, we go back to the PC21 funding that is funding upgrades on sewage to 2027, where NIW came down and tried to blag us that about the great thing this was, but when the numbers was dealt into, Fermanagh and Omagh were getting 0.6% of the budget, not even 1%. And let's also remember that this is the same organisation that I think a local newspaper pointed out that 250,000 tonnes of raw sewage was being pumped into Lough Erne on a yearly basis. And I'd also like to just point out that I come across a recent study that was done by Oxford University and commissioned by the government in England in relation to the lakes and rivers in England. And the report finding was that the blue and green algae was predominantly caused by raw sewage, that the farming runoff had a very little consequence to the blue-green algae. It was the water companies in England that was the major contributors to it. So I think, you know, when we listen to media and we listen to everyone running the farmers down, maybe we all need to have a copy of that Oxford University study and whip it out, you know, and wave it in their faces. And I have already wrote to the Minister of Agriculture requesting him to apologise for basically blaming the farmers for this, and I sent him the copy of the report.
Thank you, Seamus. It's right. Councillor Eddie Rowe from the Chamber.
Thanks, Chair. I was just about to agree with Councillor Green until the very end there, but I would point out that it's clear that the vast majority of the damage being done to our wastewater is not coming from farming, and that was made clear by the Minister and by our party. We recently launched a plan that looks at the scale of the problem in terms of our water system, and that does include a plan in the mutualisation of NI Water that would allow them to borrow money that is badly needed to upgrade every wastewater system across Northern Ireland, and that would increase the ability to build more housing, reduce the cost of housing for those in those areas, but also reduce the impact that the wastewater being released into the public waters is having. So we will need to make tough decisions, and I would ask every person here in their parties to go back to their parties and have a look at our plan and to seriously consider it. We need to be looking at something a bit more bold, a bit more not extravagant, but a bit more outside of the box. So I encourage everybody to go back to the party and to have a look at our plan. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's proposed and seconded, and we're all agreed that we go for an in-person meeting if possible. Well, we definitely want an in-person meeting. Okay, thank you. Next, or back to correspondence.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry. Thank you, Chair. Chair, this is correspondence on behalf of the Omagh bombing inquiry in relation to the commemorative hearings, which are due to commence at the end of January. And it's an invitation to the Council to consider contributing to the commemorative hearings. Further detail is provided in the correspondence, Chair, and I suppose it really sets out the context, the general scene and the proposed arrangements for the hearings. It is obviously a voluntary process. Separate correspondence is issued to the Omagh DEA councillors, the Leisure Centre, as well as other community representatives, but we were encouraged through this letter to I suppose, to circulate it and to make people aware of the arrangements. Chair, mindful, like many of you will be aware, certainly the legacy Omagh District Council would have played a very significant role in the immediate aftermath of the Omagh bombing and subsequently. And certainly it would be my recommendation that the Council does accept the opportunity to be represented. It wouldn't be political in nature by way of our commentary. It would be merely reflecting on the work of the Council and also the significance that this event had within the town and its history.
Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to note this correspondence and propose what the Chief Executive has just offered. Thank you.
Councillor Warrington.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is something that we really do need to look at very carefully. Obviously, we're referring to what was the worst atrocity throughout the conflict here in Northern Ireland, and certainly if it's something that has to be included in our estimates or whatever going forward, I'm not sure what our rules and regulations say about making donations to something like this, but I think certainly going forward, I think it's something that we have to look at closely and give them whatever help we can. Thank you.
Chief Executive, just going to clarify.
Sorry, Chair, just in case, so there is no request or requirement for any financial assistance. This is a fully funded intervention or initiative by the government. And Chair, I would be proposing, just in relation to council representation, it would simply be subject to your availability, yourself as the first citizen and myself by way of support. So I wouldn't envisage any economic implications at all.
Okay, thank you. So we're all happy with that proposal. Seconded by Councillor, proposed by Councillor Coyle, seconded by Councillor Warrington. Okay, thank you. So 17.3.
Thank you, Chair. This is a response from the Minister for Infrastructure's office, and this is in relation to your request for a meeting regarding the All-Ireland Strategic Rail Review. So, members, we have two options for dates that suit the Minister's diary. The first is next Wednesday, the 13th of November, from 12:30 to 1:15 p.m. in Belfast, or the second option is Wednesday, the 4th of December, from 9:45 to 10:30 in Belfast. Both are available. I thought perhaps maybe for travel arrangements, Chair, next Wednesday's timings of a 12:30 start may be more convenient for members, but we can obviously accommodate the preference. And if so, I suppose my request is firstly if members would wish to proceed, and if so, which date, and then we could take nominations accordingly.
I'm unable to go on the 13th, but you don't have to depend on me, and I'm sure there's many other councillors who will put up a good debate. For those that haven't been, it's in that Doer building in Belfast off the Ormo Road, but I see Councillor McIntyre knows exactly what it's like. I'm going to go to Councillor Irvine.
Just purely for information for the forum here, there's a rearranged LDP meeting convened, I think, provisionally for the 4th of December at 10 a.m. And it's a reasonably important one because there's a lot of issues with regard to policy context to discuss. So I think that could indirectly rule out the planning committee or the LDP group. Thank you.
So I'm quite happy for you to opt for the 13th, and I will depend on you all to put up a good fight. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just an issue of clarification. The second point, are we talking about, obviously, it refers to the second paragraph there, for Fermanagh-based councillors? Would that be correct?
No, Chair. So our letter was twofold. Firstly was to seek an update. Firstly, it was to express disappointment about exclusion of Fermanagh, and the Minister made reference at the launch of the Strategic Rail Review of regular reviews, so to clarify the arrangements and how Fermanagh might be included. But the second was also then the confirmed timescale for the commencement of works in Omagh to welcome those proposals and to make, I suppose, general points of clarity regarding the route, the alignment and the station. So no, it would be certainly my understanding that we would be seeking a delegation that would reflect the district in its breadth.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Coyle.
Thanks, Chair. Are we agreeing that it's, or can I propose that it is next Wednesday, and that there'll be 2 or 3 Sinn Féin councillors attending, but I'll confirm names tomorrow morning if that's okay?
Yeah, that's fine. It's also the Peace Plus partnership, or we're welcoming Leitrim up. So if people bear that in mind as well when they're deciding, and it's difficult to get a date. We've only been given a narrow window and a short period of time, but I'm sure we will be able to get a good enough team up there. Councillor Green?
Yeah, I might be available, so I'll let Debbie know before tomorrow. Just on the real strategy and that, we have all heard this, and we've all heard that Fermanagh has been excluded. Really, I'm like a broken record. No surprise there. Again, Fermanagh, for whatever reason, only county in Authority 2 that has been excluded from having a rail link. But just moving on from that, what this rail review, can maybe the Chief Executive give me some clarification on it? I've probably heard it and forgotten, but what is the likelihood that anything's ever going to happen? What is the, like, are we really fighting to get a rail link into Fermanagh, or are we fighting to get a rail link into Fermanagh on paper that more than likely is never going to happen? Which of them scenarios is most likely?
Chair, I think at the time of the publication of the All Ireland Strategic Rail Review, a price tag, if I remember, it was possibly in excess of £1 billion, but certainly it was a huge investment. It was required for the routes that were proposed, never mind additional inclusions. At the time, really across governments, north and south, but particularly the two ministers, advised that there needed to be a very significant change on public transport and transport patterns to be able to contribute in any significant way to climate change. To answer your question directly, Councillor Green, I think given the very significant delays that we have seen in this district on even what we would describe as straightforward and routine investment, I think it is likely to be at the longer end of the investment timetable rather than in the short term. But based on what we've been advised politically, it's certainly something that all parties are keen to see come to fruition. I think in relation specifically to the exclusion of Fermanagh, and why I think it would be worth discussing this in detail with the Minister, and I know that obviously local press have covered this as well, it does appear to me that a particular economic factor has been applied maybe to the Fermanagh consideration that may not have equally been applied elsewhere. And I think that it would be at least worth clarifying that. But whether we'd all be getting trains in a few years, I wouldn't think so.
Councillor O'Reilly.
Chair, yes, and whether it's on the in our lifetime or a lifetime of the generations to come, I think it's very important to go down and really articulate our views that on points of principle, if nothing else, Fermanagh should not have been left out here, and we want to see it put in a meaningful way, never mind when the actual time frame is there. And as you mentioned, the Leitrim visit to the Peace Plus, unfortunately, we just don't have enough hours in the day to be able to catch all, but I'm sure the team there and that I'd be attending to Belfast, and if apologies can be given then for Peace Plus.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Irvine?
Basically, just this is really running parallel to the rail tracks. If we could excuse the descriptor or the pun, we shouldn't lose sight of our waterways as well. As Councillor O'Reilly would be well aware, we're trying to bring those along with regard to open blue ways and provide an alternative form or transport route as well. So I think when we go up to the Minister, those that do go up, I think along with rail, which is quite a way away, the opening up of existing waterways or extending different to provide an alternative route, which is sustainable as well, should be attached to that and put forward. But what we don't want basically is two separate strategies to be that far apart. We want to see them more closely aligned and working together. And we realise that the pot of money is all central, but it would be useful if we could get some more for there. Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, Councillor McElduff.
Chair, you'll be able to witness that there was great interest in our rail system at the local democracy event in October, Positive Aging Month, with older people from this community. And I would want to be in attendance at that meeting next Wednesday. I'll be putting my name forward to our group leader for onward transmission. But I remember producing in Stormont the Benson report. The Benson report, had it in my hand, which signed goodbye to the rail system in our part of the world. And a shameful report that was. And just to remember that my own mother travelled from Carrickmore to Donaghmore Convent to school by train. So, from an OMA point of view, I'm pleased that our area is recognised, but we want to absolutely secure the inclusion of Fermanagh in the vision. Absolutely. And if you ever see a map of the island of Ireland and where the rail infrastructure isn't, then there's this gaping big hole on the top left-hand corner, which takes in our two counties. And just to think that Omagh and Carrickmore and 6 Mile Cross and Barra and Fintona and Trillick and all of these places, the GNR was central to life there in the past. So it can be again in the future if we hold the vision, and this generation needs to play its part in making sure that it happens in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Barry. Okay. So you've heard the proposal that we go for the mid-morning meeting on the 13th of November, which is next Wednesday. Proposed and seconded. All in agreement? It was just proposed between seconded, Councillor Irving's second. And the delegate, we will have group leaders can put forward names of those.
That's fine, Chair. So it's just cross-party delegation. It would be helpful just if I could have the details tomorrow. It's really just to allow the logistics for the department as much as anything, and we'll confirm arrangements separately then. Thank you.
The last time they were quite, if you are going to change somebody, they got quite uppity about, and Councillor Thompson was there as well, they got very uppity about the names of the people who attended. And I mean, it wasn't an issue. We were all from Fermanagh and Omagh District Council. But Councillor Deacon, I see your hand up online.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, just to say that unfortunately, despite my great interest in the restoration of the rail network, I'm unavailable to attend that meeting on that date. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deacon. So, go to the next piece of correspondence. Yeah.
Chair, this response from the Western Health and Social Care Trust regarding the staffing levels at the treatment room in Omagh Hospital, and the Chief Executive has advised that currently there have been no changes. The Trust is reviewing the delivery model in conjunction with patient participation and primary care colleagues.
Councillor McColgan, Marty.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose when I asked for this issue to be raised a number of months ago, it was because some people had concerns regarding changes to the staffing levels at that time and potential future changes to the service delivery model at the treatment room in Omagh. I did acknowledge at the time that after some staffing changes had caused delays in waiting times and staff workloads, that there had been some moves to address the staffing issues. But our letter had asked for clarity regarding the future operating procedures at the treatment room, and was a reply, Mr. McGuckin has said that there have been currently no changes to the booking system, that the Trust are reviewing the service delivery model, would now have met with the 4 GP practices and are working collaboratively with all relevant stakeholders to discuss the current service delivery model and future operating procedures. So there's no clarity there. It's as it was when we asked the question. So just wondering if there have been any clarity in response to any engagement with the council regarding this, and if there's been any feedback and discussion with other stakeholders, and if not, if we could write back to the Trust and ask them to give us some clarity when they do engage with stakeholders. I don't know if they're trying to engage with the council, but if there's any clarity following their other engagements.
Okay. I'm going to let, before I go to the Chief Executive, I'm going to let Councillor Deacon in as well. Go ahead, Josephine.
Thank you, Chair. Well, if Councillor McColgan is proposing to note the correspondence, I'll second it, Chair. I note that we do have an upcoming meeting with the Health and Social Care Subcommittee, and I just wondered if we could ask the Trust to give a briefing on the progress in respect of this issue. This is a really important issue, and it's one that is of vital importance to our local communities in terms of service provision. So we would want to make sure, absolutely, that our treatment room is fully staffed and that the service model that it follows meets the needs of our population. So if we could request that update to the Health and Social Care Subcommittee, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, thanks, Chair, and thanks, Councillor McIndoff, for the raising that issue. I'm sympathetic with both Councillor McColgan and Councillor Dehan's remarks there, and I'll second Councillor Dehan's remarks or proposal with regard to the Health and Social Care Services Subcommittee, that issue can be discussed at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. It was really just in response to Councillor McColgan's query. We have had no further updates or engagement on this matter, and we can certainly do the follow-up correspondence and include the matter on the forthcoming agenda.
Okay, thank you. So next we go to 17.5.
Chair, this is just correspondence from the Local Government Commissioner for Standards, Margaret Kelly, just regarding the code and various amendments and response really to feedback received, and just bringing that to your attention as requested.
Okay, so just need proposer to note. Councillor Anne-Marie Donnelly, second Councillor Roy Crawford. Thank you. Next, 17.6.
Chair, this is a response from the now, I think, rebranded Centre for Cross-Border Cooperation, previously Centre for Cross-Border Studies, essentially confirming we have obviously agreed here that we would ask them to do a briefing paper in relation to tourism and the particular impacts of Brexit, their willingness to do so, but also then there was a subsequent query, or request rather, that we would engage informally with them. So they're willing to do that, and we're just finalising dates. So just really for noting again.
So again, somebody to Councillor McGrath and Councillor Hayes. Next we have 17.7, and that's, I think we're gonna bundle that one up.
Chair, not proposing to list, and we also have two items of correspondence in the other folder, which all relate to the motion as well. And in general terms, all of the government departments are very welcoming, as are the councils, though a number of councils have adopted similar motions and therefore wouldn't necessarily be taking on another motion of the same subject, and also welcome from the Police Service of Northern Ireland.
So I'm looking for somebody to propose the noting of the correspondence in 17.7, 1 till 6. And also two other items in other correspondence. Councillor Coyle.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I'll note all those pieces of correspondence, and just to thank all those who did respond to our motion on racism. And as said in the motion, we must work together to oppose all racism to deliver a shared, peaceful and inclusive society. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coyle. Councillor Philly.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay. Anything after the other?
So, nothing in other, Chair, but we just have one other item, sorry, as in item 17.8, and that is from, it's really Arts of Wonder, and it's a new programme that they're doing around conversations and engagement, fully funded by the International Fund for Ireland. And we have been invited, I suppose more accurately, political parties have been invited to make nominations at a local elected member level. You'll see, Chair, in the final paragraph that there are a couple of requirements, namely to be a full party member and aged between 20 and 40. So if anyone would like to propose on that basis, otherwise it can be noted.
quite a discriminatory age group, I think, for this chamber. So will we go for noting and the parties can review their membership in the interim? So, proposal to Councillor Nolan Hayes. Councillor Coyle?
Yeah, we'll just come back with a name on that, if that's okay, and note the correspondence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And you're seconding the noting? Yeah. Lovely. Right. So next we have a couple of items of delegation of councillor powers, and I'm going to go back to the Chief Executive.
So, Chair, we have the item as per the agenda, but an additional item which we would be requesting council powers for the Regeneration and Community Committee meeting next week, and it is to consider a draft response to Invest NI's draft business strategy, and the closing date again is the middle of November, hence we do need to finalise the response next week before submission. So that would just be the additional committee and the additional item that we'd be seeking council powers for, please.
Okay, Councillor McElduff.
Just to propose accordingly that the delegation of council powers takes place. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Earl Thompson. All in agreement? Yeah, thank you. So now we get to the motions. I'm aware of the time when we have 3 motions and we have a few things under any other business. So, whilst I don't want to curtail debate, if we can be concise, it would be beneficial to complete the meeting in full. So we're going to pass over to Councillor Green, who's the proposer of the rescinding motion. Sorry, Seamus.
Thank you, Chair. And we had a long discussion in relation to this at the committee meeting. So I'm happy enough just to recommend it to the council and let it go to a vote on rescinding the public health bill consultation document.
Okay. And Councillor Campbell, you're the seconder.
Yes, Chair. Happy to second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have Councillor Deacon online.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm happy to support the motion, but in fact, I had come in to indicate, Chair, before we took the first motion, that I think it would be wise for me to declare an interest in motion item 19.3, because as an employer, I would have a pecuniary interest in that matter. So I'll declare an interest and not participate in the discussion or in the vote, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Deacon. Councillor Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, we had a good discussion, so I'll not rehash the points in it. We agree with many of the points raised, and that our response could have so much more in it. But there is some valid points within our response, and just we kind of believe it's better to have those points put in than not in at all. And just to engage a bit, because they'll go ahead with or without our response. And of course, we can, when pre-consultation or full consultation comes around, we can give a more full response. So just we'll be voting against this evening just for that reason. We just think it's a bit better just to have some of the good points in than just put them all out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mark Buchanan.
Thank you, Chair. And just as raised at the committee at RNC, our support for the motion, and that stands tonight. So we'll be supporting Councillor Green's proposal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Councillor Roof.
Thanks, Chair. Similarly, we will be supporting the proposal. I think it was quite frankly farcical that it was included in the consultation in the first place. The only way that you as a healthcare professional can validly administer medication without consent is if they've been sectioned under the Mental Health Act. So I don't understand in what process it was ever going to be wise. It was going to be thrown out straight away. So yes, I welcome our rescinding of the motion, and I hope that the Minister follows his own guidance, that he's going to ignore that in any future consultations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's all the debate. Everybody's indicated this debate, so I'll go back to Councillor Green again. Right, Seamus.
Yeah, I thought it'd be a very quick summary, and it will. I know we're pressed for time and that, but I have to say I'm very disappointed in the SDLP position. I believe there's been huge public outcry in relation to this public health consultation and what was included in it, and I'm rather shocked at the SDLP's position, but anyway, we'll let it go to the vote, and just a bit disappointed it hasn't got unanimous support, this rescinding motion.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, so so the proposal for the rescinding motion, and we're going to put that to the vote. So, and that's a recorded vote. No, you have to. Let's abstain.
Chair, sorry for jumping in. This is my first time voting on WebEx. Does it appear up on the screen, or do you just record it like this, or I just don't see nothing appearing here?
Here, there should be a Slido link, I think, at the bottom of your screen, or if those on WebEx, Councillor McCann. But if you're having a difficulty, we can register just your vote verbally, if that's easier.
Yeah, I'm on the phone here, just using the phone, so it's just not appearing here at all.
Sorry, Chair, I don't have a vote online either.
And I don't have one either. Nor me.
So I think the easiest way is I'm just going to take, for those online, I'm going to verbally take your votes as a recorded vote anyway. Councillor Mahan, you had indicated.
It's just a point of clarity, please, whenever you're finished.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go Councillor. So Councillor McCann.
Yeah, in favour of the motion.
Councillor Ovens.
I'm not going to take part in the
yes, you've declared an interest. Thank you. Councillor Deacon.
For, Chair.
Councillor Anne-Marie Fitzgerald.
Favor, for.
And Councillor Podrick Kelly.
For.
Thank you.
We have 26 for, 2 against, 6 abstaining, 1. So the motion's carried.
Yes.
So can we do closing now?
Yeah, thank you.
So, Chair, we have 26 votes for, 2 against, 6 abstentions, and 1 not voting. So the motion to rescind is carried.
Okay, thank you. So next we go on to our next motion, which is the Palestine motion. Sorry, Councillor Mahon.
Thank you, Chair. And it's just in relation to declaration of interest. Councillor Deehan declared an interest in third motion, the national insurance as an employer. Would that recommendation be for any employer to do that? Because there's also mention of farmers there, so I'm just wondering where we need to be with that.
Chair, ultimately it would be just a matter from individual members. It wouldn't be something we would be directing on one way or the other. It would be up to members to decide themselves.
Thank you. I'll declare an interest then, Chair.
You're going to declare it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Seamus, Councillor Green.
Just on that last point, I believe we did get a QC's opinion on this, and in a general point like this, I don't think the opinion was that you didn't need to declare an interest on that. It was only where there's financially benefit to you personally. But on a general point, where this is an overall thing, you didn't. That was a QC's opinion, because it did come up in, back a number of years ago. And so I know it's everyone's own choice to do it, but I think that's not. I don't think you would have to declare an interest in that. But again, that's only my opinion, going by what we were told by a QC.
Yeah, I know we discussed this in particular. I think it was around farm grants at that time, Seamus. So I think the best thing is that I bring Philip in at this stage, if he's happy to come in.
Yeah, Chair, just to confirm that what Councillor Green says is correct. We did get an opinion in relation to this. This is a broad topic of general interest. There wouldn't be any requirement for any member to look at a pecuniary interest in relation to this. Obviously, caveating that, as I always do with the words that declarations of interest are a matter for each individual member, but I agree with what Councillor Green is saying in relation to this particular motion.
Okay. Okay, well, and bearing that in consideration, first of all, Councillor Deehan, do you wish to reconsider your declaration of interest?
Well, Chair, well, thank you, Philip, for that clarification, and it is reassuring. Chair, there is a lot of debate in primary care at the moment regarding the impact of this new legislation on GP practices which employ people, and as you know, GP practices are under considerable financial pressure. So for me personally...
No, I'm not going to take debate, Josephine. If you just yes or no, please.
Yes, I'll just stick with my declaration of interest.
You're going to stick with your declaration of interest. Thank you. And Councillor Mahon.
You, Chair, I'll remove mine and I'll speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mahon. Thank you, Councillor Green, for your input there. Okay, so we're going to go to the first motion, sorry, the second motion, and we're going to go to Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. So there's quite a lot in this motion. I'm not going to go through the whole points of it. I'll just pick out a few key points. And first off, I suppose, why would I bring this motion tonight now? Last month, we passed the 1-year anniversary of the beginning of this genocide in Palestine. Not only does the violence show no sign of abating, it's actually getting worse. The presidential election in the US has shifted the focus away from the Middle East, and Israel has used that shift in focus to ramp up their slaughter of Palestinians and now people in Lebanon as well. As the motion states, Israel has so far killed over 43,000 Palestinians in Gaza, including over 16,000 children. However, it's important to say this number does not include the over 10,000 people who are buried beneath the rubble, and it may take years for those people to be ever found. It doesn't include the people who have been starved to death or people who have died from curable illnesses due to a lack of medical care. It doesn't include the people who, perhaps in an act of despair, have decided to take their own lives rather than live through the absolute genocide that they're suffering at the minute, rather than wait for an Israeli bomb to kill them. On top of these figures, Israel has also killed over 700 Palestinians in the West Bank, and they've killed over 3,000 people in Lebanon. This is a genocide. There's no other word to describe it. Every day we hear reports on the news, and increasingly with less and less prominence, of atrocities in Gaza. 50 children killed in Jabalia refugee camp in the last couple of days. I want to commend the members of the Irish Defence Forces who are in the Shamrock camp out in southern Lebanon. They are refusing to move. They are standing, protecting the people against the Israeli government. The Irish government have to do more to protect the people of Palestine and to promote Palestinian sovereignty. They have to, Sinn Féin has called for them to pass the Occupied Territories Bill. This bill would make a real difference in saying that we will not do business with any Israeli settlements. Only economic and trade sanctions can have a big impact against the State of Israel. The ICJ made a significant ruling when it said there was a plausible case of genocide, and it has ordered preliminary measures against Israel to protect and sustain human life in Gaza, and the Irish government need to join that legal case. Unfortunately, Israel has refused to obey those preliminary measures in contravention of international law. I'm going to finish on this point. Unfortunately, we've debated this issue previously in this chamber, and some of the parties in this chamber refused to condemn the State of Israel. So tonight I would appeal to them. I would appeal to them to open their hearts. How would you feel if you were a Palestinian? How would you feel if it was your child or your home that had been bombed and destroyed? Palestinians are people too, and they deserve to live. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor McCardle.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to second Councillor Brown's proposal. As Councillor Brown has stated, over 43,000 Palestinian people have been slaughtered, including 16,000 children. Not only are the Israeli government content in wiping out the entire Palestinian people, they are now inflicting the same mayhem in Lebanon. We must condemn all actions carried out by the Israeli government and call for a complete end to this needless war. And this Council must stand in solidarity with our local residents who have family and friends caught up in this mayhem. 2 weeks ago, we had a stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people in Derrylin. And a doctor and his wife and their son were going driving through Derrylin. He's from Egypt. He actually turned and came back and stood with us. And he said this mayhem has to stop. I would like the Council chamber here tonight to support Councillor Brown's proposal. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Next we go to Councillor Earl Thompson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Well, can I just say at the outset, this is a divisive and controversial motion that's been brought forward, unfortunately, here this evening. But I want to make the following points, Chair. The Democratic Unionist Party deplores every loss of innocent life, and we are clear that there is no justification for the targeted killing of civilians, the use of civilians as human shields, taking civilian hostages, or willful attacks on international peacekeepers. Hostages from the 7th October 2023 should be released and returned to their families. October the 7th, terrorist atrocities should be condemned, yet it is not referenced in this motion. No country would tolerate the forced eviction of thousands of their citizens from their homes because of daily violent attacks. Yet, that is what some expect Israel to do. There's no moral equivalence between the deliberate targeting of civilians by Hamas and Hezbollah and the actions against Israel must take to defend herself. Hamas is not interested in peace. Their aim is not a compromise. It is the destruction of Israel itself. Hamas is a proscribed organisation in the United Kingdom, Republic of Ireland, the European Union, and the United States of America. In this context, we support Israel's right to defend itself and its population from acts of terrorism. Terrorism in all its forms must be condemned, whether at home or abroad. It is regrettable that not every party around this chamber can say the same. The United Kingdom must stand shoulder to shoulder with what is right. It must step up and support Israel. There has been no finding of genocide against Israel by the ICJ. This motion provides no recognition or respect for the sovereignty of Israel, nor does it envisage a place for the Israeli state in the context of the peace process being promoted. Will those bringing this motion address those points? Arms sales, including technology with a dual military and civilian use, already require an export licence. The government assesses applications against a number of criteria which reflect, among other things, the United Kingdom's obligations under international law and the potential for the items to be used in the violation of human rights. As a member of the Parliamentary Committee on Arms Exports Controls, our party leader, Gavin Robinson, indicated support for a new end-use certification process which will provide greater assurance that we sell it used as it should be, where it should and illegally. The system is already in place in the United States.
Bring it to an end there, please.
Would be a welcome addition to the UK. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, next we go to Councillor Coyle.
Thank you, Chair. Just to support the motion, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to do this, but on the 29th of November is International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, and I'd like to ask if the council buildings could be lit up in red on that day.
That'll have to come back under AOB.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Chair. People have watched in horror while tens of thousands of civilians have been killed in Gaza, with the IDF regarding hospitals, schools, churches, tents as legitimate targets. As Israel intensifies its ground assault in Lebanon, we can have no confidence of a change in approach. This includes the targeting of UN peacekeepers, including 380 Irish troops who have served in the Lebanon since 1978. And who are now threatened and intimidated by the IDF weapons of war aimed directly at young Irish soldiers who have acted as human shields for innocent Lebanese civilians threatened by the IDF and Hezbollah alike. The IDF has repeatedly and consistently broken international law. The UK government have sanctions in relation to arms trade and officials at their disposal. They have deployed these against Russia, and they must be deployed in Israel. So yes, SDLP will be supporting this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Warrington.
Thank you, Chair. Well, while the motion highlights significant concerns, it is crucial to consider the broader context and the complexities involved. Firstly, the term genocide is a powerful and specific accusation. While the loss of any innocent life is tragic and deeply regrettable, it is essential to approach such claims with caution and ensure that they are substantiated by impartial investigations. The situation in Gaza is undoubtedly dire, but labelling it as genocide without conclusive evidence can undermine the credibility of our discourse and hinder constructive dialogue. Secondly, the motion condemns the Israeli actions in southern Lebanon and the attacks on UN peacekeeping soldiers. It is important to recognise that Israel's actions are often in response to security threats posed by terrorist groups operating in these regions. Israel has the right to defend itself against such threats and should be allowed to fulfill its own security from external threats. We want to see an end to the violence and the killings in the region and support calls for a ceasefire and the release of all hostages, thus enabling the restoration of peace in the region. The language and emotion in this motion make it unattainable for the Ulster Unionist Party to support this motion. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Green.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose this thing of saying about human shields and all as a justification to dropping huge £2,000 bombs down on top of heavily populated areas, of moving people from one area to another, and then when they move, bombing that same area. We have been told that there's no proof of genocide. All you have to do is switch on the TVs or go on the internet day and watch, and anyone that doesn't think it's genocide obviously doesn't want to see it. And let's just remember, Colin, what happened in 1948 when the Palestinians were forcibly removed from their homes and put into places like Gaza, have been surrounded, having free movement, have none of them things. As a lot of people would say, it's the largest concentration camp on earth at the minute. What would any of us do if we were in them circumstances? I would like to ask anyone in this chamber, what would you do if you lived under them circumstances? And let's just remember, in 1948, who did Britain call the terrorists that time? They called the Israelis the terrorists. They called the founders of Israel, was designated as the terrorists of the time. They were on Britain's most wanted list. So, Britain calling somebody a terrorist, doesn't really cut it with me when you look back through history of what they did. The British Empire that was the more people killed under the British Empire than any other empire in history.
Councillor John Feely.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to talk about whether or not this is a genocide or not. I don't think, like the man says, if it walks like a dog and talks like a dog, it is a dog. It's genocide. It's and you don't have to take our word for it. Look around. There's a Norman Finkelstein is a Jewish American professor, and his two fields of expertise is the Holocaust in the 1930s and 40s, and also the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And he calls it a genocide. And nobody in this world is probably more qualified to call it a genocide. His mother and father both survived the Warsaw Ghetto. His father survived Auschwitz death camps, and his mother survived a concentration camp in Poland as well. Now, if learned figures like that can call this a genocide, you're just being blind to the truth if you can't call it a genocide. And finally, I recently seen a quote: "You remain silent when children sleep. You don't remain silent when children die." And that's why it's imperative for this council to support this motion. Thank you.
Next, Councillor McCann online.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And just following on from Councillor Feely's points about is this a genocide? Well, you can let the facts speak for themselves. As of 29th of October, over 44,000 people, men, women, and children, have been killed in this conflict in Gaza. And let's put that into context. What size is the Gaza Strip? Just for context, it's roughly the size of the Irish capital, Dublin, and it's about half the size of the north in terms of geographical area. 25.5 miles long and 10 kilometres wide in its narrowest section. And in just over a year, there's been 44,000 people murdered in that, in that small area. Can someone tell me what it is? And, you know, every person, you know, who's got a chance or who's got a platform must use that platform to speak out against the genocide and the just the slaughter of the Palestinian people. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. And lastly, Councillor Irvine in the chamber.
Thank you very much, Chair. The use of emotive language basically can stir up different emotions, and there's a lot of emotive language actually being tossed around the chamber tonight. I think what we all need to realise is there are always two participants in any conflict, or maybe even multiple participants, and to actually try and come down on one side and not look at the other side is not necessarily the right way to end the conflict. You've got to realise what's happening on both sides. What happened and is happening at the moment was prompted by an action over a year ago. And I think we've lost sight of that action. And what we need to do is re-establish in the collective view what prompted the current situation to go on and what in reality would be required to bring about some form of peace negotiation so that stability can come back to that sector going on, and to actually start criticising and lambasting one side and expecting them to withdraw their right to actually protect themselves, I think is naive in the ultimate. We have got to actually engage both sides and get them to realise the culpability of their actions that have led to the current situation and see what's going on. And the more that we who are dislocated from the actual event happening use language such as we're using tonight, all we do is actually stoke up the flames of the conflict without actually trying to bring some sort of peaceful resolution to it. I think we all need to realise that going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I'm sensing opposition, so, oh, sorry. Back to Councillor Bryan for resolution.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. You know, again, disappointing from the Unionist parties represented here. Disappointing, but not surprising, I have to say. You know, we hear this nonsense coming out. You know, Hamas is only interested in destroying Israel. Go to Gaza. Gaza is destroyed. So that's not going to wash. Israel has a right to defend itself. What about the 50 children in Jabalia camp? How were they a threat? No, it's just a beggar's belief, to be quite honest. And the whole discussion around, is this a genocide? And there's no evidence that this is a genocide. Open your eyes. It's everywhere. It's been documented. It's been filmed. And it'll stand in a court of law. So I just want to finish, Chair, and thank the members who came in and supported the motion. I think it's important to say that what's going on is just absolutely appalling. I think we're witnessing the death of humanity. What will become of the world when such hatred can go unchallenged, especially by the so-called leaders of the free world? And I just want to finish on a quote from a former MP of this constituency, and it's an adapted quote. He said this: they won't break the Palestinians. Israel will not break the Palestinians because the desire for freedom is in their hearts. The day will soon come when Palestine will be free and the world will see the rising of the moon.
Okay, so if we can set up a vote, please, on the sanction. So we'll go for a vote. We're having some issues online. We're going to try it here. If not, I'm going to do it verbally. Also recorded vote, so I can do it verbally then. Okay.
Chair, just as a thing, it worked online this time.
It has worked. Thank you, Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I haven't got it on mine.
do you want to just verbally give me your vote, please, Anne-Marie?
Yes, above or for.
Councillor Deegan, have you got a voting facility?
I have, Chair. Yes, I have voted on Slido.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ovens?
Yeah, all sorted, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Saving it and then I'll bring it back on there. Give me a wait in a second. There we go.
Percentages 19.
12.
Let's take the WebEx.
Yep. Word 1, I hazard again.
It's just to see. It's just kind of percentages.
Yes.
It's just coming from percentages. So we have, yes. Yes. So we.
Can you give me numbers instead of percentages? I can't do them all, but it'll take a while.
If easier, Chair, and to see there were 5 votes, I think I voted against, if that makes it any easier. So presumably the other 4 are the other 4 councillors on the call.
So it's 24-13.
Yeah. That's 24 for, 13 against, so the motion's carried. Next we go to the employers' national insurance contributions, and we go to Councillor Robert Irvine.
Just to note, the motion has been altered, Chair.
So in accordance with Standing Order 19.2, the motion has been altered, so you all should have a copy of the new motion. So, Councillor Irvine.
I'm good to go, Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks very much. I'm not going to take too long because we're looking at time, the same as the previous motions. The altered motion actually takes into account 2 of the adjustments or new taxes that were brought in by the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, last week. The first one I'll touch on basically is the increase in employers' national insurance contributions from 13.8 up to 15%. The impact that this is going to have basically on small to medium-sized businesses, of which in Northern Ireland there are a huge number, and that is right across the sector, both in business, but it's also in the social and welfare side, and basically employers in the national health as well. It's going to have sort of a 4-fold impact. And I think subsequent to her announcing in the budget the tax coming forward, there are a lot of institutes coming back referencing the hidden impact going forward in the short to medium and long term. And the ability is basically the threat that the tax is going to create a slowdown in the growth of the economy going forward. And the impacts, the negative impacts on the businesses basically are 4-fold. One, there's an increased financial burden. Businesses are going to have to get the additional 1.2% basically out of turnover to pay for their contributions going back into the exchequer. 2, there's the potential for reduced employment. By actually taking more money away from the employers and taking it into the central exchequer, there will be less revenue contained within businesses basically to plan for future expansion. They will have to look at their forward planning and see what they're going to have to do. The third possibly effect going forward will be actually on the employees themselves. And whilst the Chancellor was trying to say that this tax will not have a direct effect, or it's not a tax on workers' contribution, what it's going to have is it's going to have a negative focus from the employer side going forward to what they can actually then do with regard to employee growth. and that would be growth from unemployment, a payment rate, and possibly from a pension contribution going forward. And the fourth strand to the negativity on this would be the additional burden placed on small businesses for compliance. The current systems that they have to actually engage and look after the administration side may indeed have to be altered, and that will come with an additional cost. It will come with additional compliance, and therefore it will be more onerous. So in regard to the national insurance contributions, there is going to be a quadruple hidden effect, I believe, on small businesses. And as I've alluded to, we have a propensity to have a lot of small businesses in Northern Ireland, and therefore our economy is going to be impacted. The second tax that was brought forward in the Chancellor was with regard to agricultural property relief. And whilst she brought it in, and it would appear to be a tax on large corporations that buy agricultural land and treat it as a large-scale business, particularly over in England, the same does not apply to the situation in Northern Ireland. Our raft of agriculture employers, for want of a better word, are small businessmen who actually either are self-employed or indeed employ several people. But they are working on farms from an average size of about 50, 60 acres up to 200, 300 or 400 acres. And all I can say is that anybody who deals in agriculture directly or indirectly will realise that at current valuation of agricultural land, over here is running from anything from 11,000 up to 22 or 23,000 pounds an acre, not a hectare, an acre. And when you take into account the valuation of a dwelling house on a land holding plus agricultural buildings, it actually racks up to £1 million very quickly. So a lot of our farmers over here are going to be caught in a web, and they're going to have to find additional cash to actually fund this. Thank you very much indeed, Chair.
Thank you. Next, Councillor Barton, who's seconding the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, from this evening and from listening to my colleague, it is clear that this employer's national insurance increase and the changes to the agriculture property relief will in turn have a devastating effect here to small businesses in Northern Ireland. And not only will it have a devastating effect to the businesses, but it will ripple out. Make no mistake about it, it's going to ripple out and cascade down further into the whole population and affect everybody. In seconding this motion, let's consider Fermanagh and Omagh District Council area, an area of rural dwellings, small towns, whose economy depends on the family-run businesses. And many of these businesses are in towns or indeed across our countryside. And these people will be mostly affected by the increase in employers' national insurance, these business people. The consequences of this will include extra expenses for the business that are presently already cutting corners to survive on a minimum profit margin. These extra expenses could also include less people being employed in businesses, the reduction of pay increases, because financially the money's not there in the preceding years, and the possibility of this increased tax being passed on to the customer. All this will manifest itself as a tax on those working people and on the whole community as a whole, resulting possibly in a pay downturn or pay stagnation and price increases, which will not be beneficial for the economy of FODC area. Having the majority of the population in FODC dependent on agriculture will mean many of these people will be doubtfully affected, will definitely be affected through the budget with the changes to the property tax, property relief tax, and they will also perhaps, where farmers have employees, they will also be hit doubly with the employers' national insurance increase, which again will have to be passed on to somebody to pick up the pieces. Mr. Chairman, in appealing to all councillors to support this motion, I also ask them to support local small businesses within our community here so that they can sustain growth and stability for our local economy.
Exactly 3 minutes. Councillor Seamus Green.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say, when I saw this motion before it was add-ons onto it, I was baffled at how it got through. I did clarify it afterwards because the motions had to be in on Tuesday, and the budget wasn't a Wednesday. So I was scratching my head to wonder how the Ulster Unionists had an inside track on what was going to be announced, because I knew they had a close relationship with the Tory party, but I didn't realise they were as close to the Labour Party. But then a lot of people think Keir Starmer is a Tory, so maybe that's the answer to that one. But all seriousness, I have no problem with the motion as was. I have a slight problem with the add-ons because it really does simplify the whole thing around the property tax, and the ring fencing of the agriculture budget isn't even mentioned. And basically all we have is the words "and our local farmers" added onto a motion. So it really doesn't do it justice. If I had thought that I'd been able to get a motion in after Wednesday in relation to farming, I would have got it in. I was leaving it to next month. I really think that does farmers a disjustice, them add-ons, and our local farmers, I think it's repeated about 5-6 times. So I will be supporting it, but hopefully come next month there can be a comprehensive motion put in support of the farmers from this council, because this really doesn't do it justice. But I will be supporting it, but reluctantly on how it talks about farmers.
Thank you, Seamus. Councillor Mahan. David.
Thank you, Chairman. The motion before us follows the budget announcement from the new Labour government. We know this budget has caused increased anxiety for many of our local small business owners and their staff, who make our high streets and town centres thrive, provide essential services to the most vulnerable, and are at the cutting edge of manufacturing and food production in our communities. Small businesses are the livelihood of Northern Ireland, of the Northern Ireland economy, and we want to see them grow. However, this budget will see an increase in the employers' national insurance contributions and a decrease in the threshold at which businesses start making these contributions. Combining these factors with an increase to the national minimum and living wage will result in a rising cost of doing business. Hospitality Ulster in particular have warned that, and I quote, "trying to balance the books from pockets of high street businesses will simply leave hospitality as collateral damage, threatening jobs, future investment, price increases for customers, and business viability." It is worth highlighting that the rise to national insurance contributions will also have an impact on our GP practices, with Dr. Alan Stout saying, I quote, "there are two big impacts to the GP practices, the national insurance increase and the minimum wage increase, and there is no way for practices to meet this extra cost." We support the call to write to the Chancellor of the Exchequer, urging her to reverse the increase to the employers' national insurance contributions. However, there is also a clear job of work for our local ministers to do, and we must also make the case to them. There is a long-standing need to reform business rates, reflecting commercial realities and business trends. Additional pressures placed on businesses as a result of the increase in national insurance employers' contributions, and the risk that changing customer trends, including online sales, can destabilise businesses with a physical footprint in our communities. Given this disparity in current rate relief for retail, hospitality and leisure in England and those same sectors in Northern Ireland, now is the time for the Finance Minister and all ministers to prioritise reform of the non-domestic rates to the benefit of our high streets and our economy more generally. We as a party will be supporting the motion this evening, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Councillor Adam Gannon.
Thank you, Chair. The motion contains a lot of very good and valid points, some of which have been stated through the discussion, so I'll not repeat them. We support aspects of this motion, but not it in its entirety. So obviously I'd like to first recognise the great contribution that SMEs and indeed micro businesses make to our local economy. They are the lifeblood of our local economy and they need support. And there was announcements regarding support for small businesses. So the point of contention, or the point that we would be not necessarily in agreement with, is to reverse the increase, because for 14 years, we've been kind of decrying austerity budgets, but ultimately we've had tax cuts. If we want good services, they do have to be paid for somehow. And we can, of course, debate how they're paid for and what's the best way and what's maybe not the best way to go for this. But what was also announced was, as I said, in England, schemes being introduced to support SMEs. And as a result of that, through Barnett Consequentials, the executive will receive additional funding. And that funding needs to be ring-fenced to give support to our SMEs and micro businesses to help mitigate any impact from this change. And the reform of non-domestic rates is long overdue. Prioritising that would also further mitigate any impacts of this, in particular to those smaller businesses. So given that there is stuff we support in the motion and aspects of it that we're not 100% happy with, we'll be abstaining from the motion. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Councillor Roof, Eddie.
Thanks, Chair. We at the Alliance Party will be supporting the motion. We've been warned that tough times lie ahead. However, it's our belief that those with the broadest shoulders should bear their fair share of the burden. Alliance wants to see a progressive taxation system in the UK that adequately reflects wealth and guarantees the super wealthy pay their fair share. Using national insurance as the tool to raise the required revenue is an unwieldy method that unfairly targets those on lower incomes. And whilst we do support the Chancellor's ambition to raise revenues for public services, there were other ways to do it that don't impact so harshly on the likes of small businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Before I go to Councillor Michael Duff, it's 2 minutes past and we started at 5 minutes past. So we have Councillor Michael Duff and then possibly Councillor Irving to resolve. So I'm looking proposer that we extend the meeting for half an hour. I believe we'll get finished. Councillor Anthony Feely and Councillor Roy Crawford. Thank you very much. So now we go to all agreement. Okay, go to Councillor Michael Duff now.
Thank you, Chair. It's really a question in the context of this debate. As a council, how do we engage with the various sectors to get their feedback, local feedback, on how the budget is impacting on them? Because I got it from retailers yesterday, like a small enough shop saying that, I think the figure they quoted was £15,000. It'll add £15,000, the employer contribution bit. So, there's lobbying organisations for retail, but the various sectors, if we were to get a local picture as to how our businesses feel that they're being impacted in the context of the budget, how would we get that feedback to inform a council corporate response to this? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councillor Irvine and we'll resolve this motion. And then I think the Chief Executive will update us with some of the actions that are being taken. And I'm also aware that local businesses are motivating themselves, and I believe at least in the Fermanagh or Enniskillen, they're trying to get a Chamber of Commerce back up running again, so as their voice can be heard. But I'm going to go to Councillor Irvine now to sum up.
Bearing in fact the time constraint that's on us, I'm just going to thank the members that are going to support the motion. I appreciate the members that are going to abstain because of the mixed messages within the motion, but I thank everybody for their contact going forward. And we will be debating this as an ongoing issue, I'm sure, in the Chamber again. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. So we'll have to go to the vote here. So I'm just clarify. I have two abstentions, and Councillor Deehan isn't voting. Have we anybody contrary to the motion? So I wouldn't have to go to a vote. So we're all agreed then, apart from those abstaining, not voting. Okay. So motion is passed. Thank you. So now we go to any urgent and relevant business. And the first was Councillor Deehan. Just before you speak, Councillor Deehan's going to speak about the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service. So I'm not sure how that might affect Anne-Marie. Maybe we let Councillor Deehan speak. But I know Anne-Marie Fitzgerald may wish to indicate. So
yeah,
go ahead, Councillor Deehan. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to raise this matter this evening in Council. And my proposal is that we would write to Mr. Nigel Ruddle, who is the Medical Director of the Northern Ireland Ambulance Service, to highlight to him what I consider to be a gap in ambulance provision which impacts adversely on patient care. Specifically, this gap in service provision relates to patient care services, which is non-emergency transportation services. The Northern Ireland Ambulance Service do admirable work, and I commend their staff 100%. The patient non-emergency transport service will generally support vulnerable and often disabled patients and patients who don't have relatives to transport them to hospital appointments. So in that respect, they are quite disadvantaged. The gap in provision relates to situations where the patient is required to be in hospital by 9 o'clock. Now, the ambulance service have structured times when they can provide this non-emergency transportation, and that is generally from 10 o'clock in the morning until 12 and from 1:30 until 2:30 in the afternoon. Some of our ambulatory care services, including the same-day emergency care unit at Enniskillen Hospital, Southwest Acute, require patients to be in very early because they operate only between 9 a.m. and 5. They have no staffing after 5. So say, for example, in the case of a patient who requires a blood transfusion urgently, they would require to be in early, have their group and cross match, and then be transfused. So they must be there at 9 or slightly before if they can manage it. Often what we find then is that patients in this situation have to come up one day and have their bloods grouped and cross matched and then come back the next day for transfusion. So elderly and vulnerable patients find this process extremely stressful to the point where they actually don't want to go. So I would just ask that the Council would support me in writing to Mr. Ruddle, just to ask him to look at that gap and see what alternative provision can be made for this vulnerable group. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. So as this AOB, all I'm looking for is a seconder. Councillor McGrath, thank you. Are we all agreed? Thank you. Councillor McAuliffe, before I let you in, I'm going to first of all allow the Chief Executive to update you on the matter. I got ahead of myself there.
No, it's just specifically on the budgetary inquiries, Chair. So normally how we would engage with the to get a picture of the district would be the representative bodies. So that'll be Omagh Chamber of Commerce, also Enniskillen Business Partnership as well as Enniskillen Bid. We would also engage then at a broader sectoral level with Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce, Manufacturing Alliance of Northern Ireland, and there is a number, particularly the Federation of Small Businesses, would have quite a bit of local activity here. I am aware that a number of the sectoral, so for example, construction employers and others are working up. As already has been referenced, there's specific provision around care providers and particularly those working indirectly in the health sector as well. A number of position papers are being developed. What I'd maybe suggest, Chair, is allow a little bit of time for the various stakeholder bodies or representative bodies to bring forward their views, and we could certainly bring a summary of that probably to a future Regeneration and Community Committee. If we had it, we would do so in December. There are a number of engagement events that are also coming up that I know, for example, Oma Chamber is holding quite soon, albeit in relation to a different theme, and I would expect that the budget and its implication on business will be referenced quite soon.
Okay. So, Councillor McElduff, I'm going to have to ask you to take a leap of faith here. I'm going to ask you, you've two matters that you wish to raise. If you would raise the matter about vaping now, and once we go into confidential, you may receive an interesting update, and then, if necessary, then I will allow you to come in after confidential on the first matter, but I don't want you to mention it at the moment, if that's okay. Okay, thank you for that, Barry. Thank you. So if you bring up the vaping matter now and the other matter, if necessary, I will allow you to bring it in at the end of the meeting.
Okay. Just maybe this is the stuff of an upcoming committee meeting. We have been active in the area of dealing with, and promoting the idea of anti-vaping legislation, you might say. And our council has been active in this area. So there's currently developing legislation around vaping at this time. So it wouldn't have been enough time to request an update or a report tonight, but at an imminent committee meeting, if we could be appraised of the developing legislation around vaping, just so that we can play our part in trying to see legislation transposed to the Assembly, in relation to this matter as soon as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'm looking at a seconder for that. Councillor Roof, thank you. And we're all in agreement?
Chair, I would very briefly advise there's very active consideration of this matter, Councillor McElduff, in particular the resourcing implications that it is proposed to place directly to councils without any financial support from central government. So we will also include that within that update report.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Executive. Councillor Coyle, you had a matter and I passed it to AOB, so if you want to raise that now.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to propose that on the United Nations International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, 29th of November, that our council buildings are lit up in red.
Thank you. I'm looking at a seconder for that. Councillor Tommy Maguire. We all in agreement? Yeah. No, you're not? Okay, so let me set up a vote, please. Make it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
We're not a vote.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Stand.
Getting plenty of democratic practice tonight.
Yes. 16, 4 and 5.
18.
18. 18 and 11 coming out there.
5 must
Have all the councillors online have access to a vote? I'm only saying there's only 3 councillors left online. Yeah, all 3 have voted.
So, sorry, Chair, that's 20 votes for, 4 against and 6 abstentions. So the proposal is carried.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm looking at a proposer to take us into confidential business. So Councillor Irvine, Councillor Crawford, sorry, they're just straight in front of me. Anybody in the corners there? Tunnel vision. Yeah. I'll scan the next time. Ready? So you're happy enough then, Barry? Yeah. So thank you. Chief Executive is going to sum up confidential business.
Thank you, Chair. While in committee, the Council confirmed and signed the confidential minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of October. There were no matters arising. They confirmed the confidential minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 16th of September. And again, there were no matters arising. Confirmed the confidential minutes of the Environmental Services Committee held on the 2nd of October and received an update in relation to the recommendations that had been resolved. Confirmed the confidential minutes of Regeneration and Community and Policy and Resources Committee meetings held on the 8th and 9th of October respectively, and no matters arising. Confirmed the confidential minutes of the Planning Committee on the 16th of October, no matters arising, and received an update in relation to a potential funding allocation to the Council for onward distribution to voluntary and community sector organisations.
So proposal to Councillor Paul Robinson and Councillor